You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind.
With the emergence of global internet, a human population of several billions, an electronic noosphere, that we are now within the shadow of this transcendental object at the end of time.
I find it a little difficult to say what the subject matter is going to be, because
Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Shake and bake, steps back, three-pointer, bang!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Midnight Variety Hour. We are here to bring you another great show. We might talk about some crazy shit this week, or maybe it's your normal shit to talk about, whatever. Either way, I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host,
Adam, and it's a beautiful day to talk about conspiracy theories.
Yes, it is. Usually I crack a beer open, but today I'm sipping a coffee because we're recording in the morning, and beer and conspiracy theories at 9 a.m. are probably not a good mix. So we're joined by a good friend of the show, Adam's biological brother. I know we talk about brothers a lot on the show, but Aaron Andrus is here. Aaron.
He's back for round two.
Round two in the Midnight Variety Hour chair. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good.
You doing all right?
Yeah. What episode are you on?
24.
Nice.
24. And then you were on episode 10, so it only took us 14 episodes to have you back.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. So, we've talked about it before, that the reason this podcast started was because Adam and I would sit at work, we would have really good conversations. Those conversations would go on for hours over huge varieties of topics. And then we decided one day, why aren't we recording this? This could be a podcast. Maybe other people could enjoy these conversations and, want a chance to get in on them. Something that we talk about a lot is conspiracy theories. I think we're both fascinated by them. I think we're fascinated by the world's perception of conspiracy theories and what people think when they hear that term conspiracy theory. And just like the different oddities that we all have noticed in different stories from around the world, sometimes details that don't make sense, sometimes there are things that seem deeper than meets the eye. Regardless, Adam and I are both interested in conspiracy theory, so we wanted to do a conspiracy theory episode. We talked about doing it, and one of the main ones we thought about was the conspiracy centered around 9/11, the events of 9/11. We started talking about it, and we realized that if we did a show about 9/11, it would probably be the only thing we could cram into an episode, just because there's so much to look at. We wanted to talk about other conspiracy theories, but it would feel weird if we were just jumping around topics while we were talking about something so serious. So I want to preface this episode by saying this. I think I speak for Adam as well when I say this. We both acknowledge when people hear the term,
Aaron feels the same.
Aaron feels the same
sure.
way. When people say the 9/11 conspiracy theory or the inside job 9/11 theory, people often think it's disrespectful to talk about it, or it kind of disrespects the tragedy that was experienced by so many thousands and, extended to their family, millions of people on that day, or that it paints it in a way that's not a sad day for this nation's history. So I want to start this episode by saying this. We are going to talk about 9/11 today. We are going to talk about the conspiracy theories around 9/11, but in no way, shape, or form are we shying away from the fact that an immeasurable tragedy happened that day. Mass amount of lives were lost. Mass amount of families were disrupted. The sacrifices that were made by the first responders that day are 100% legitimate. No one's death on that day is illegitimate or should be disrespected. Anyone that joined the military as a response of 9/11, their sacrifice and their dedication to their military service is 100% legitimate. The only people we are saying are at fault would be those that would be at the top of the conspiracy, or the people that organized such a conspiracy, if you believe that happened. If you don't believe that there was a conspiracy centered around 9/11, or if you think everything is as it seems, or as it's made to seem, that's 100% okay. If you think that there might be more than meets the eye to the whole 9/11 situation, that's also okay. But the tragedy that happened on that day is 100% legitimate. No one's loss of life on that day is going to be delegitimized by us here today. We're just here to talk about some things that we find interesting about what happened that day, some things that seem like there might be a deeper path to explore regarding the events of that day. But everything that happened that day is 100% a tragedy and is a very dark day in history. And my deepest condolences and respect to the people that either lost their lives on that day or, you know, laid their life on the line for people that day. That being said,
that was beautifully said,
Very
Tom.
well put.
Thank you for prefacing that.
I think it's important.
Yeah, we talked about this before, and because we obviously know there's a lot of trauma behind that. We were all alive when it happened.
Sure.
I'm sure we all remember the exact day it happened when we were in school and having to take out of school, and the trauma behind it. How many people were scared and emotionally just, you know. The pain all around it is immense, and we don't want to shy away from that and just acknowledge that for a moment, because it's a huge part of our history and a huge part of who we are today as humans. I mean, there's no way of escaping that. So thank you. Yeah, it's important to say. So,
and so like while all that has been said, it is relatively undeniable that there are some very strange things about what happened that day. Things that don't really seem to make sense. Video footage that doesn't really seem to make sense. Other details that I know Aaron knows a lot about regarding things that happened leading up to that day that don't really seem to make sense, or they just seem fishy. So I'm not sitting here saying today that with 100% certainty it was an inside job or there was a conspiracy. I'm just saying there are things that should be talked about because they are extremely interesting and peculiar. So I guess I'll just start this podcast off by asking, Adam, when did you become interested in the idea of... when did you become interested in the idea of there being more than meets the eye regarding the events of 9/11?
Yeah, so I got to say also 9/11 was one of the first, like, conspiracy theories that really blew my mind, or at least one that really grabbed my attention. Was like, and something told me, like, all right, there's something more to this. There's something more that happened to this. And there were documentaries that were coming out on YouTube, early days of YouTube, Netflix documentaries, like, and these were legitimate documentaries. This wasn't like just your average Joe just making a little short film that was like low budget film that, you know what I mean? This were like legitimate people coming out and making these films that had legitimate concerns about what happened that day. And it really grabbed my attention. And from there, I watched those documentaries and I just jumped into it. And I was like, okay, did my own research. And also, along with Aaron, both of us were into it. So we were both watching these things together. So I had somebody to talk to, and we both were able to, like, share ideas. So it wasn't like I was just the only one thinking, like, all right, am I crazy for thinking this? No, you're not, because there's millions of other people who feel the exact same way. And I was just watching too, because we had talked days before this about doing it, or weeks actually prior to wanting to do this podcast. And I was watching, like, C-SPAN, some videos of C-SPAN. Someone put together, like, the sequence thing of C-SPAN. Like, they have the live, like every morning they'll have like a live thing where people can call in. And there was like caller after caller after caller. This is back in like 2008 or something, of people just like continuously saying, "Hey, what happened to Building 7? It was going down in free fall for over 8 stories. Looked like a normal demolition to me. Can you explain that?" And they would just avoid the question every time. So stuff like that. It was just like, we know that there's millions of people out there who feel the same way as us. It's not just us, and so it's just a fascinating topic, and I just can't wait to dive into it today.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron, what about you?
It's same along the lines with Adam. I mean, we were together. I remember the days when we were just in your room or in my room. And it's really crazy because it was in a time of our lives where the internet was kind of like really exploding.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Especially
were putting
YouTube.
together. Yeah, YouTube.
YouTube just took off like wildfire.
Yeah,
Everyone was sharing videos.
I think a lot of people would agree that in the early 2000s, YouTube was like the Wild West of like video streaming. Mm-hmm. Anyone could post anything, and it would be on the site, and you could search it, and it would be there.
So you had independent journalism, people who didn't have the opportunity before to share their ideas and their thoughts, and now they had this platform to do it where millions of people could watch it.
And not only watch it, but share those ideas and communicate, and bounce ideas off of each other. And, if something was kind of fishy, it was weird, it's like they're going way too far on conspiracy world. A lot of people were there to ground them and keep them in reality. Obviously there's the freaking reptilian crap that you can go on for days and days. But I remember the days we were watching those documentaries. There was the Loose Change, the Alex Jones stuff, the Zeitgeist,
even the early days of Netflix.
The early days of Netflix, yeah. Yeah,
So-
that was like it started that world of like, something's weird here. Even though you don't take it, as fact, like you watch this conspiracy and go, oh, it was an inside job,
Yeah.
false flag, blah blah
Just
blah.
opened your mind up to the other
It's just like,
possibilities.
It planted a seed,
Yeah.
And then that kind of led onto this whole world of like questioning
Sure.
government, not having
Yeah.
the full on trust of everything the government tells you.
Yeah, and we also have to preface this too because a couple days ago or yesterday too, me and Tom were on YouTube trying to find the old videos that we remember watching. And I'm sure Aaron remembers these videos too. We're like, hey, do you remember this video of the plane hitting this way? Or do you remember the guys in the street talking like this? And we're trying to find all this footage on YouTube because we remember all of the videos. Like, I mean, there were so many. It was like, it's like imprinted in our brain. Remember watching those and just being like blown away, like, whoa. And now you can't find half of them on YouTube, or probably more than that.
A lot of them are gone.
A lot of them are taken down. And this is a part in day and age, like today we living in this mass censorship of media today where it's really getting out of control. People are getting banned. I mean, we just saw DaBaby recently get canceled from all of his tours and all this stuff. And like, just like we live in this time where if people don't like what you're saying, especially people with interest, politics, government, people who have agendas, I mean, it's so easy to get banned now. And so it's crazy. But yeah, so we went on to this other website called BitChute, which everyone should check out. Everyone should be aware of BitChute. It's BITCHUTE. And we'll pull up a couple videos and things from there today because that's where you can find a lot of these. Still, these videos are on this website now. It's another free form. It's like the new YouTube, like how it was back then.
Yeah.
And obviously, you'll find a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But I mean, that's what it's there for. It's like this is for free, independent people to post whatever they want, and this is how
it's an
it should be.
alternative to YouTube. It's like they say we're 100% uncensored.
Right.
That's their whole thing.
Right.
That's their whole gig.
Yeah.
So.
So, anyways, just wanted to say that as well.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Let's start
Dive
with
in.
Let's jump into it.
analyzing the events before the day itself. I know, Aaron, we were up here a couple of days ago, maybe it was last week, and we were kind of just like going through some websites and things like that. And you managed to find like some weird things regarding things that happened regarding the stock market or, companies having a vested interest in certain things happening.
For sure.
Why don't you start off by talking about some of the weird things you noticed before the events of 9/11, like before the day itself?
Yeah. I also
Yeah,
wanted to
it's-
jump into the OKC bombing.
Yeah, maybe at the end we can tease that as like our next show.
Or no, I wanted to jump into it like before 9/11. We can barely brush over it and just talk about the main events because once you know about that,
I think
there's so many
We
similarities
can
to
do a
9/11.
super quick, brief history of false flag events in the United States.
Yeah.
What's the Gulf of Tonkin one?
Right.
That was where there's a submarine or something that was shot a missile
Yes.
at a U.S. bomber or
Yes.
something, and that made us go into war with Vietnam, right?
Right.
63?
Yes.
Gulf of Tonkin? Right. That is a fact that never happened, right?
Yes, that is in public records. You can look that up right now and understand that there was a
really?
false flag event. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's known. That's a known, proven
Yeah.
event that happened in our history.
And
Yeah.
it was classified for a long time.
Yeah.
I think Freedom of Information Act got
Yes.
information about it, and they're like, "Yep, that is a false flag attack."
Yes.
They said hundreds of. For a lot of this stuff, I don't know the nitty-gritty details of this stuff.
That's fine.
I'm just a
That's fine.
casual.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like,
you don't need to. If people
yeah.
want to do further research and verify what we're saying here,
Yeah.
feel free to do
but
your
I
own
can,
research.
I can definitely point a lot of people to a lot of source-based
Right.
information. Yeah. So that's like kind of like I'm sure there's other false flag events before that, but that was one of the main big ones that a lot of people point to as an example of a
Yeah.
false flag event. And then I can't remember any
Dude,
in between that. And
there's a
OKC,
ton of
but
other ones, but I mean, even throughout history, I was telling Tom too, like for thousands of years, there has been wars that have been started based on illegitimate reasons, based on money, power, greed, different things throughout history. And another great example is Nero burning Rome and blaming it on the Christians to persecute the Christians. I mean,
For sure.
this has been happening for thousands of years, where
Not
wars
just
have been
US
started.
history, yeah.
So
Human history.
It's only important to say that, to know like it's not as crazy as it sounds for a government
Mm-hmm.
to do something like this, right?
Right.
It's so once you understand the history behind all of these things, and wars have started because of illegitimate reasons.
Literally hundreds of thousands, millions of people have died, have gone to war,
Yeah.
have suffered
Yes.
because one government falsely accused someone else of,
Yes.
you know,
So this has happened time and time
attacking
again.
us
Yeah.
or someone else.
Yeah. So that's important to
Right.
know. Yeah.
So that's one of the main false flag events that I would point to like realize, like you were saying, you know, this stuff is real. And so that moves to the OKC bombing, which is shrouded in mystery. Lots of stuff that's just questionable stuff that's happening. There's the guy in the car. There's John Doe number 2.
Yes.
There's 24 different witnesses see this second guy in the truck that parked
Yes.
the car that bombed the building in OKC that killed hundreds of people. They never brought that up in the court hearings. No one questioned it. They called it mass hallucination or whatever with all these witnesses. Like the FBI didn't give over thousands of documents to the defendant's lawyers.
And there's 12, from what I know, also there's 12 videotapes that were on all like multiple street corners that could have saw the other person in the car. And what's important about the other person being in that car, it's not just one person, is because they ended up killing him. What do you call it? I'm blanking on the
Assassinating?
term.
Or?
No, not assassinating.
They
but
gave him the death
They
penalty.
gave him the death penalty.
Oh,
Sorry.
right.
They gave that guy the death penalty, supposedly, and then other people were saying he was still breathing.
One
but
of the
anyways,
witnesses said on his deathbed he was still breathing, and then they shipped his body. And
yeah, there was no autopsy.
there's no autopsy done.
But anyway, there's a lot of sketchy stuff.
I'm unfamiliar
But
with all
there's
of this.
so there's 12 videotapes that they never released, and people were like, okay, where is the tapes? Why are
And
you?
then
Where,
they say
is there
they
something to
lost it.
hide? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Like, why is there something to hide? Like, just show the tapes. So yeah, there's supposedly that, and
There's the guy that invented the neutron bomb,
Right.
neutron whatever
Yeah.
bomb explosion. He said that type of bomb they were using was impossible to do the damage it did on the building.
yes, and
So
so,
there's like legitimate.
another big thing around that.
well-read-
Another big one around that is that there were 3 bombs in that building. One was said to go off. The narrative was one bomb went off, obviously from the truck. The truck was supposed to be the bomb, but there was at least two other bombs found in the building that didn't go off. But later, this was on multiple news sources. They were all reporting another bomb found. We defused this bomb. Another bomb found. We defused this bomb. But then later, they all said only one bomb was found. Only one bomb went off. There was no other bombs in the building. So it was like, okay, why are they lying about that? And then the bomb that did go off did this massive damage. And so
Incredible
it's pretty much they tried to like they tried to like say every other architect, every other person who saw what happened to that building that went down said that no, y'all are all crazy. This was actually a bomb that happened outside of the building. There were no bombs inside of the building that could have. So like they're all trying to say like this bomb that was outside of the building did all this damage. When no, the bomb there was actually a bomb inside of the building. That's the only way it would cause that damage. It blew out all of the walls, all of the windows. It was just incredibly like it was just so obvious that like anyone who studied like architecture or studied like bombs or anything like that would have known immediately that there was a bomb inside the building that went off. So anyway, there's that too, and then
everything about this conspiracy, the OKC conspiracy, completely it has the same like narrative, same story of 9/11.
Right.
Like there's prior knowledge.
All the ATF were also all the ATF because this was a government building that blew up.
Well,
and
he
there
was
ATF
trying to
in
attack
there.
the ATF
Right.
in the government building.
And there were no ATF in the building the day it happened. They all were
all
known to have been tipped and said, don't go to work that day. ATF even told people who worked in that building, who were asking them, hey, why didn't you go to work today? They're like, oh, we were tipped off. It was known that happened. So and it was such a botched job that it was so obvious. There's so much evidence behind that it was an inside job that is just overwhelming. So, and that's we have to preface that because that was the first major or biggest quote unquote terrorist attack on United States soil.
Yeah.
Right? That was the first. That was in 1993. Right? So, okay, this is very recent. This is so close to 2001, 9/11. So, it's important to preface that.
Yeah. So it brings us to 01. Like that's what I'm saying. It parallels the narrative of OKC. Like prior knowledge, sketchy, the day of sketchy.
And then
Communications.
Clinton used that day as an excuse and a reason to put more gun control and a lot of laws to take away liberties.
We'll get into that, like
so,
the
yeah,
reasoning.
The reasoning behind these things happening is also important to know. Like, okay, why would they do something like
Yeah.
this? Why would you want to kill innocent people? Why would you want to do this on soil?
Because even if you look at it all objectively and come to your own conclusion that it's a high possibility that it is an inside job or a false flag event, the question remains why? Why would a
Right.
government want to do this to its own people?
Right.
You know,
And so from that event, in specific, it was to get more control, and obviously people were losing rights because of it.
for sure. Yeah.
So
Yep. So 9/11, the days before, hours before, I think one of the most telling signs that there was prior knowledge, Tom, you were bringing up the insider trading, stocks, and there's selling of the airlines, of different companies investing in digital currency.
Right.
And the companies involved. I mean, it goes so deep. There's so many companies involved. There's so many stocks involved. I think we should look at the hardware that was saved from the site, shipped to Germany. The engineers looked at it. They're like, yeah, there was definitely high amounts of transactions going on a lot of these systems, and it's really sketchy. And it's just on a random day of the week. They said something about how every American in the United States would have to have gone on some kind of crazy shopping spree to amount to that amount of
money that was
transaction. So it's like
transaction.
millions and millions of dollars hours before. They have timestamps, everything. And then I think weeks later they were interviewed again, and they were like they were pushed on this question: do you think there was insider trading? Was there prior knowledge? That's what have to have happened. There are people that have known and trade and sell stocks depending on what corporations and companies that were involved. And he was like, well, if you look on our website, you can come to your own conclusion, but I can't say anything else about it. So he was automatically silenced. Someone had to come in and told him, like, hey,
stop
talking about this because it's not your right. You're in the wrong place. Or, threats are being made or whatever.
Yeah. And other things that were
So that's
happening.
the insider trading part.
Yeah, that's the insider trading part. But also other things we have to understand is that Bin Laden was a CIA asset, or
80s.
Yeah, I don't-
Desert Storm.
yeah,
Yeah, illuminate me on this because,
Right.
this is a part of the whole.
yeah. Pull up an article, or Tom.
You're
yeah.
saying that you believe.
No, this is fact.
This is fact.
This is fact that Bin Laden was
Bin
working
Laden
with
has ties.
Bin Laden and his family was working with our government and the CIA for a long time, for decades.
They hired him because his family, his father is some corporate mogul construction company
Yeah.
that's working with oil companies. We've had
you tell me what you want me to click on because the number one thing, the first thing right here says fact check. Osama bin Laden was not a CIA agent.
What is that on Scopes or whatever?
who's
No,
fact checking the fact
That's
checkers.
newsmobile.in. Here's answers.com.
Just go to his Wikipedia. Just go to his Wikipedia.
I mean, if it's not going to be there.
Yeah, and then go to different.
You want me to control F CIA?
Conducted by members. Just.
I was only bringing this up because he was known going to meetings. He was known to be to be seen with George Bush Sr. and all of these people way before, like in the 80s, way before 9/11. So he had known ties.
The Clintons
Like, why
too.
are you having meetings with these people and all this stuff? So
There's actually a Wikipedia page titled "Allegations of CIA Assistance to Osama bin Laden."
yeah, just look at what that says.
So I'll read it. Some sources have alleged that the Central Intelligence Agency had ties with Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda and its Afghan Arab fighters when it armed the Mujahideen groups to fight the Soviet Union during the Soviet-Afghan War. About the same time as the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the United States began collaborating with Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, or ISI, to provide several $100 million a year in aid to the Afghan Mujahideen insurgents fighting the Afghan pro-Soviet government and the Soviet army in Operation Cyclone. Okay, so.
All right, go to the allegations down there. Keep going down.
In 2000, an article... Aaron, I'm a little bit further away from this than you are. You might want to read it. In 2000, an article in The Guardian alleged that the Central Intelligence Agency helped build an underground camp at Khost, which bin Laden used to train Mujahideen soldiers. The United States would later attack this camp in Operation Infinite Reach when bin Laden was held responsible for the 1998
Here's the biggest-
bombings of the United States embassies in Africa.
Here's the biggest telling is that Bin Laden and Al Qaeda and many other groups like that received funding from the CIA and our government. That's known too.
Yeah.
We knowingly funded these groups.
Look at this
For
last
our
sentence.
for our
In
reason.
conversation with former British Defense Secretary Michael Portillo, two-time Prime Minister of Pakistan Benazir Bhutto said Osama bin Laden was initially pro-American. Prince Bandar bin Sultan of Saudi Arabia has also stated that bin Laden once expressed appreciation for the United States' help in Afghanistan.
Yeah, look right here. It says
Larry King program right
some
here, too.
analysis believe Bin Laden himself and whatever that says had training from the CIA. Like he was definitely training with the CIA.
Have you ever heard of bin Laden's like jealousy for his family, and he's kind of like a rogue. He went rogue on his family, and like that's why he's kind of jealous and wanted. He got this help,
Right.
and they used him as an operative.
Right.
This is all like there's some stuff that we'll never know. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, for
this is
sure.
all like allegations. He said, she said stuff. You know.
Yeah, but there's definitely known, like there's times where he was going to meetings. People saw him at meetings in the UE or wherever, like all around the world, going to meetings with George Bush Sr. Like in the same room. Why are you in the same room with this guy? Like there's people knowing like stuff like that. That's just like so obvious. Like why are they working together? But also we know that they're in business together. Look up the Bushes and the Bin Laden family in business together. They own companies together. They had owned companies together
What?
since the 80s. Look
Or
it up.
at least they had investment firms that are investing
Yes.
in different companies.
The same companies.
The same companies.
They both had similar interests or the same interests in certain companies. So there's that.
Okay.
Which these ties go
Look,
back.
you can go to Bin
way
Laden
back.
family Wikipedia too. You will find ties.
So a lot of people don't know that.
George H.W. Bush met with Bin Laden family.
Yeah.
Where are you reading that? And this
Last
link on the
bottom.
George H.W. Bush met with the Bin Laden family.
Yeah. So this is known.
I just want to like preface this by saying
The
I don't
link.
know if any of these websites are worth a goddamn. Like these could all just be like worthless
Seriously,
garbage
yeah.
websites. But
We're laying out the foundation.
today we're
there
just
for you.
having fun and going down a garbage website
Yeah.
rabbit hole. So I mean,
We're
this
just
shit might
laying
be
down
true,
the
it might not be,
foundation.
but we're just gonna look at it for fun. Okay, George H.W. Bush met with the Bin Laden family on the morning of 9/11. This can't be true. Comments ridiculing these efforts as conspiracy theory are still popping up despite the fact that an overwhelming majority of Americans and global citizens believe that something... Fuck, I can't stop burping. Citizens believe that something fishy happened that day, in that an adequate explanation as to what happened was never provided by the United States
Yeah,
government.
go down. This is all.
9/11 order out of chaos. You tell me where to stop.
These are all just links. I mean, this is one massive.
Yeah, get off of this. This
The
is
Bush
stupid.
Bin Laden meeting.
All right, here we go.
One of the pieces of evidence of fishy business, very technical term there, we haven't covered before is the fact that one day before the 9/11 attacks, as well as the morning of, the recently deceased George Herbert Walker Bush had a meeting with Shafiq bin Laden, the brother of Osama bin Laden, the supposed mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks. Is this not fairly convincing evidence in itself that the bin Laden family and Osama may have
the Carlyle Group. You heard that?
may have been working with the Western military industrial complex? Professor Michael Chosadovsky, Canadian economist and University of Ottawa professor emeritus, explains it
Hold on. Tom, go
Emeritus.
down
sardonically.
here. Right on the last part of this paragraph, there. So they have fellow investors in the Carlyle Group, including Osama's brother. So Osama's brother is an investor in this group. He met with former President George H.W. Bush in the New York's Ritz-Carlton Hotel, September 10th and 11th. This meeting was interrupted on the attacks of the day. It was confirmed by Washington Post, and there's quotes here.
Yeah, so it's
Let's
confirmed.
be clear what happened. That happened the day the dad of the sitting president was harboring to use GWB's expression, the brother of the alleged mastermind of the 9/11
Look,
attack.
we can agree. Look, Washington Post is a very
Other
credible.
members of the family were there.
It's Washington Post is credible. Click on that link. I'm sure it might take you there. Washington Post is credible. Like you can look back at a lot of these things, and there's headlines in the news articles of these things happening. But now it's like it's all been so
Let's see,
scrubbed. and
where's that? Oh, here, right here.
Washington Post. I don't know if it'll take you there.
connections and then some.
I don't know. But anyway, all right, so
Well-
that's one thing. We don't have to go too deep on this, but I just wanted to bring up that there's definitely ties from the Bin Laden group and the Bush family, right?
Okay, I think next we should go into the war games, simulations. So a lot of people ask the president, ask the Department of Defense, so why weren't we prepared? Their response was, we would never imagine anything like this. We would never imagine hijackers stealing commercial airlines and flying them into towers in New York City, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that
lies.
it had been imagined hundreds of times.
And it was being imagined the day of,
Right.
the day before. They were running, I think they ran 100 or so. You'd have to look this up. Don't take my word on it. There was a lot of different varied simulations going on in Canada, Northern Hemisphere, Alaska.
They were crashing drone-piloted aircraft into
they
like
did
test buildings and
simulations.
things like that. Yeah,
They were doing
computerized-
radar simulations. They were using real military aircraft with real pilots. One of the simulations was hijacked aircraft flying into the World Trade Center buildings. So they had this was done by NORAD, Department of Defense. You know, all of our military branches working together, doing all these different simulations.
So they had
days,
imagined it
months
numerous
before.
times. Yeah,
You can look up the operation
Yeah,
names.
again, this is proven. Again, this is known
Right.
fact, right? We know that this was happening.
This was in the commission report afterwards. They were asking him about it. Why were there so many simulations going on?
Right.
Do you think that these simulations had? Do you think they interrupted our ability to, react quickly and
people
swiftly?
said yes, right?
And they were like, oh, if anything, it helps better. When in reality, we couldn't scramble jets quick enough. Like there were no jets in the air. And then so we can look at the war games all leading up to that. Does that point to? Is it a coincidence? Does it point to prior knowledge? Does it point to maybe creating confusion, delaying response? Those are all questions that.
Weren't some
you
of the
can ask.
people who are working at the control centers or whatever saying that whenever they were getting calls in saying, hey, this plane is doing this plane is doing that, they're like, well, we're actually running simulations right now, is this true or whatever? They had to say some kind of code or something.
Every single air traffic controller, when got a call saying there's hijacked planes, they were like, what is this, real world? Really? This is real world?
Right.
And so not only did that delay it, like they didn't even know what to do. And then on their radar systems, there's all these different planes going on. It was complete chaos, and I think it was controlled chaos. It can't just be a coincidence that this is happening.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
That's another one.
That's a sketchy. What was going on there?
Right.
I don't know.
Okay, here's another one that I recently found out that blew my mind too. Was Bush passed the exact name of this paper or bill or whatever it was W. You can look this up. W199I. Type in Bush, President George Bush. W199I. This was something he passed to make sure that FBI would not arrest known members of Al Qaeda. And so this was something that could have prevented
this is
9/11.
the most sketchy link. This looks like it was made by a high schooler in Flash class.
It's probably old because a lot of this stuff isn't.
Dude, we're not
Jesus
using this.
is savior.com.
JesusIsSavior.com.
No,
we're
don't go to
definitely
that.
not using that.
Don't go to that.
911myths.com. History Hub sounds vaguely.
But is there any record of that document? You can't find that actual document he signed and passed?
Okay, tell
'Cause
us
this is known.
what this document is and what's important about it.
This document's important because it said that FBI could not arrest known Al Qaeda members. And this obviously would have stopped 9/11 if this was true that Al Qaeda had, which we knew Al Qaeda was doing sketchy shit. If they would have arrested them early on, this possibly could have prevented 9/11.
When you say I, is it like the letter I or like the word I? Because I'm seeing multiple W199 letter I or W199.
letter I.
Okay, because people are calling it 99I, as in
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know.
Well,
I
people
thought
are
it was-
calling it both. It
Okay.
doesn't seem like that would be the real name of a document with the word "I."
Yeah, I
in
don't
it.
think
that
so
sounds
either.
like a
No.
like slang conspiracy
Yeah,
term.
no.
Also, it would help if we weren't searching on fucking Bing, trash ass.
Yeah, don't use
search
Bing, man.
engine. Well, it's the default.
What's the
right?
one, Aaron, that you go to? Go Duck or whatever it's called?
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo.
Oh, that sounds like one of those browsers that installs itself on your computer. on Edge.
DuckDuckGo, I think,
DuckDuckGo's legit,
is
right?
one of the most legit source places to go to research stuff that Google has censored.
Okay, well, tell me while I look for this.
Dude, it's so hard to search on Google now. Everything is so censored. But anyways, that's another.
WesternCourier.com. Okay, this looks like a legitimate website. Bush and Bin Laden, too close for comfort. And then we'll do Control F and we'll type in W199.
No.
No, it brought up 2 results.
See, look,
Here it is.
they bring up the Carlyle Group as well.
Okay,
here.
President
Here we
George
go.
W. Bush has made several questionable decisions as president regarding the Saudis and the Bin Ladens. President Bush signed W199I.
Oh, I guess it
spelled
is
as-
I. Yeah.
also called
Called.
W199 letter I,
Okay.
months before September 11th, and it has been reported that this act helped stop the investigation into the Bin Laden family and their ties with the World Association of Muslim Youth, a suspected terrorist organization, and Al Qaeda. Why would he have?
Exactly.
signed
Why
it?
would you have passed that if you don't have interest into, you know what I mean, helping this group out?
This is definitely fishy. Yeah, it's definitely.
It's super fish. Like, so we can. Someone else can go research and find that actual document and read
Yeah.
it. But it's obviously helped. It obviously
Because
helped.
if we
Al-Qaeda.
did a deep dive into like every single piece of this conspiracy, we would
Yeah.
be here for like 4 hours.
Right.
This,
Yeah.
We're just gonna try and like for an hour and a half talk about all these different
We're bringing up everything
weirdnesses.
we know. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're so inclined, if you're enjoying this, go just do your own research on
Yeah.
W199I. I've never heard of it until 5 minutes ago, but now I'm interested.
There you
So
go.
look it
Yeah.
up.
So there's another one, and then there's. All right, we haven't even got to the actual planes hitting the buildings
Yeah.
yet, and there's so much that has already happened, right?
Sure, yeah.
So much has already happened before
Yeah.
the buildings are even
Yeah,
hit.
we won't even
So-
go. There's a whole nother topic of the properties in the surrounding area.
Oh, and
Larry
then-
Silverstein and
Right.
the insurance policies. I mean,
Okay, yeah, the insurance
just
policies
skim over that
is
'cause
huge.
That,
Well,
I
just
mean,
talk about briefly what he was doing. He was trying to re-update the insurance
it
on
was,
the actual
it was
buildings.
one of the biggest insurance policies ever made
Right.
for these buildings. Billions of dollars worth
Yeah.
of insurance policies. And then hours after, he was on the phone with his lawyer, Larry Silverstein, the owner.
Hours after the buildings were hit.
The owner of World Trade Centers, which bought the property months before.
Yeah, and that's something I recently discovered with Tom. We were looking up Donald Trump was on a call on a news station after 9/11, and he was talking about his building being now it's the tallest building or whatever in New York after the buildings. He's like kind of like bragging about it. It was super weird. But he was also saying that he knew the owner that had just recently bought the World Trade Center like a week or a month before, and we were like, whoa, that's weird too, right? Like, why would it be sold a week before? So
Another
So
coincidence.
another one, yeah, another
Maybe it
thing.
might be a coincidence, but
yeah, so
it's
just
a little. It's like it's crazy to
we just
understand.
got to point
like,
out
wow,
everything
that happened.
that happened. Yeah, so we have a huge, big picture of what's going on there.
Yeah, he made billions off of
Right.
this event.
Right.
Billions in insurance. So
The owner of the building.
the owner,
Yeah.
Larry Silverstein.
Larry Silverstein.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I mean, that.
What are you
brings us
looking into,
to-
Tom?
Well, I remembered something that I had found out a while ago, and I just thought it was interesting because I know we're talking about events leading up to the whole thing. 36 hours before the weekend before the attack, the Twin Towers were cleared out and the power was turned off for 36 hours. I think it was like the 8th and the 9th of September of 2001.
I didn't know that.
They completely cleared out the building. No one was allowed to go in. They made sure no one was in the building, and the power was shut off to the Twin Towers for 36 straight hours. So a day and a half, which is very interesting, very strange that would happen, first of all, but for it to happen, like 2 days before the September 11th attack. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because one large part of this conspiracy theory, because now we're getting closer to like, okay, the day of. And I'm not saying this is what I believe. I'm just saying it's something that a lot of people think. It is widely thought about, the idea of the collapse of the towers being the result of a controlled demolition. It's very strange that, the buildings were completely evacuated and closed and the power was shut down for 36 hours. I mean, a lot of people operate under the assumption that maybe this was the time in which those charges were placed and planted and things like that. So
there was also
that's just another
eyewitnesses.
thing that's very weird.
There's also eyewitnesses of people of vans pulling up for like the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks prior to 9/11, pulling up between 3 a.m. and like 5 a.m. Like within that 2 hour period when no one was in the building, all the janitorial staff was left.
Yeah.
And so like 2 weeks prior, there were known vans. People were saying, why are there vans pulling up at 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. for 2 weeks before? So there was that too. That also adds on to your story. So.
There's first account witnesses after the first plane hits, as they're going down the stairwell. I think there was a guy on the 8th floor or something with a bunch of other people, and they clearly heard a bomb go off. And these is first account witnesses. Bombs going off on the lower levels of the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Getting blown back, feeling the force on the lower levels of the World Trade Center.
And there's glass.
Thinking that he was going to die because bombs are going off.
And there was glass shattered on the lower level floors. Why would the glass be shattered on the lower level floors?
Right.
From the waves, right, of a bomb. That's the only explanation.
So we got sketchy vans, power going off, first-hand accounts of hearing explosions.
This is also fucking crazy. George Bush's little brother, Marvin Bush, was a principal, and he was on the board of directors of a company called Securicom. Securicom was it might still exist, I don't know, but it's a massive security firm.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That managed the security for the World Trade Center,
I know what you're talking
United
about.
Airlines, and several airports. I think Dulles, which is the airport in D.C., or one of the airports in D.C. That's very interesting, right? That the person overseeing security for the World Trade Center, United Airlines, and
has direct ties to George Bush.
Yeah, it was like his fucking little brother, that's very interesting.
Very
I'm not
interesting.
saying, I'm just saying, it's impossible to hear that and not go, like Scooby fucking Doo, ruh-roh, So, I mean, that's another thing that's very weird and very interesting.
Going back to George Bush Sr., I also wanted to preface this too with we all remember him talking about the New World Order, which was this huge. This was one of the first conspiracy theories too. One of the first big ones of the New World Order. Everyone's what is the New World Order? Why is the president over here addressing? What was he addressing the UN or something about the New World Order and how we can all come together and protect against known terrorists.
If
and
we could
stuff
all come together.
Let's pull up the video. Let's watch
If there was an
One New
outside
World Order.
threat.
Doesn't he say that? Doesn't he literally say a New World Order or something?
He's like, if there was an outside threat,
Let's watch the video. Pull it up real quick.
how would we react? We
What-
would all
what should
come
I type
together.
in?
Just type in George Bush Sr. New World Order.
Would it be
Yeah.
on YouTube, or do I have to
I'm
search
sure you can find it on
Facebook?
YouTube. I'm sure you
Yeah.
can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But that's another one where we have.
We can create this new world order. Remember he says it like that?
Yeah, and it just sounds very weird. It just sounds something out of a sci-fi film, right? It's like, what is the New World Order?
Bush Senior New World Order speech rare in parentheses. I love when videos tell you it's rare. All right, we're playing it.
For ourselves and for future generations, a new world order, a world where the rule of law,
The music.
not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Okay,
When we
wait,
are
rewind it.
successful,
Rewind
He
it.
says the rule of
will
law.
be.
Rewind that real
We
quick.
have a real opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle,
Not the law.
governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful,
And
we
we
will
will be.
we have a real chance at this new world order.
Okay.
An order in
I
which
want to. I
okay.
want to just say that video would not have been nearly as creepy without the music underneath.
No,
it.
but
No,
no,
it
no,
would.
no. It would
And
be,
right
dude. No,
before-
seriously.
Tom, right before he
We will
makes
be
this statement,
successful.
seriously, right before he makes his statement, he talks about an outside threat.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they've already contemplated what can get everyone to
Yeah.
come behind this
Bro,
idea.
look at what is below this. It's a fucking video thumbnail of Obama
Obama, I
with the
know.
fucking pyramid over his eye.
See,
See,
this
man,
just gets.
conspiracy theories are fine and all, but
I know.
it gets a little
It
crazy.
does get crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
But
yeah.
here's the thing why this is important. The New World Order thing is important. It's because hold on, I gotta switch this. It's because what happens after 9/11 is so dramatic and it's such a huge event. We're gonna get to this, the Patriot Act, and the amount of rights And the amount of disrespect towards the amendments and the Bill of Rights that we kind of just forget the Bill of Rights. We need to protect. And there's something that we're going to get into this later, but Benjamin Franklin said about security, like if you're willing to give up your liberty for temporary security, you should not be allowed to have security or liberty. And this is something that's going to go deep because we're so quick to give up our rights for temporary security, and that's what 9/11 was. It was a temporary thing, right? We haven't had anything like that happen since, but obviously people want to be safe, and this is something that is going to go deep into the psychological effects of what this happened to the people, right? And obviously people rallied together, people came together, and it was this huge thing. It was a beautiful thing to see people come together and like fight for a common cause, and it's an amazing thing that happens. But at the same time, people's rights were being taken away, and this ties into the New World Order, right? When you talk about what is the New World Order, what was their idea of a New World Order, which was coming together.
We're getting into the why.
So okay, yeah. So I just want to preface that's why. But that video was taken before 9/11, right? All of that, the New World Order talk was before 9/11. So that's why we're prefacing that as well.
Yeah, I think seeing him say this gives you a good insight into the ideology behind
what the elites are thinking,
what is going through their mind, what is right, what's wrong, what they can get away with behind a cause that they believe is right.
Right.
You know, we have to sacrifice this. We can do this. But I wanted to mention, too, when he says it, you can see him sit up a little bit, and you read his body language. You can tell he's like really proud of what he's doing, you know. He scrunches his eyes. This is going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
The New World, he sits up. And
but it's like, wow. He's talking about it like it's a plan. Like, this is a plan that we're going to initiate, and it's going to happen. We're going to do it, right? It's like that's what he sounds like, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah, he's so confident
He's so confident. Yeah. He's like, the New World Order.
Yeah.
The way he
says
that's just
how presidents talk. I think that's how they talk
I don't
about
know.
it.
The way
we don't. I don't have the context of how he.
The
would
way he was saying it though is just sketchy though, man. It just gotta raise your eyebrows. Like that has to raise your eyebrows. Like what the fuck is the New World Order? Tell me more. What is that?
It is weird. Anytime someone says New World Order, it just feels strange. Yeah, sure.
Because what is it? Like
100%.
what is the New World Order? You're not telling me anything but some
the
weird
law of the jungle.
Yeah, like what the fuck? Anyways, all right. Let's go back. I think we've made it to the day, right? We can actually talk about what happened on the day.
All right, it's 9/11.
I know you have a good understanding of aviation, so I'd like to hear your point of view on like I don't know if you're familiar with the maneuvers that were made after the planes were hijacked and how that works and the accuracy that was needed, the training of the pilots.
Yeah, I know people say like, oh, the pilots were training and they had a fucking flight simulator down there underground or whatever the fuck. It would have been very hard. So there were 4 planes that were hijacked that day. If the one that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, didn't get stopped by the passengers of Flight United 93,
Shanksville,
we would have had 4 targets that were hit. But we had, of the planes that weren't stopped, 3 out of 3, 100% hit their target. Right? Each one hit each of the World Trade Center towers. The other one hit the Pentagon. It's already pretty remarkable that 3 completely untrained people that have never flown an aircraft in their entire life, not even like a Cessna, like a regular aircraft. I mean, we're talking about an airliner, a large wide-body airliner that has relatively complex controls, to not only pull off the hijacking, right? That's pretty difficult, but then to be able to maneuver it, fly a good amount of distance, because they were stolen. One left Boston, right, and it was on its way to like San Francisco.
California.
I mean, granted, Boston and New York aren't that far apart, but it's a decent amount of distance to pilot it from one city to another, then to be able to bank it, hit a target that's ultimately not that wide, you know. In the grand scheme of things, when you're moving at that speed, I think they said the planes hit the tower moving like 400 miles an hour, which is like, you know, relatively normal speed for one of those planes to travel. It's just pretty remarkable to think that someone that had never flown an aircraft before was able to take the aircraft, fly it to a different city, and then crash it into a building that's not that large of a target.
Yeah.
The plane that hit the Pentagon is not a tall structure.
70 feet, I think we saw.
Which, in the trajectory at which the plane hit the Pentagon, it almost is though, because there's like one piece of video footage of the collision at the Pentagon.
We'll pull it up later. We have to.
And it shows an object striking the side of the Pentagon, but it comes at it as if it's traveling like almost parallel to the ground.
Yes.
to have gotten a Boeing 767, I believe was the aircraft that was used. It might have been a 757 at the Pentagon. To get an aircraft that size, as someone that's never flown an aircraft, period, before in their entire life, to get it down, fly it parallel to the ground through the D.C. metropolitan area and crash into the side of the Pentagon, that's like extremely difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like what I would be really interested to see is if they put like an actual trained pilot in a simulator, if he could do it.
Right.
You know, I'm sure like, you know, a good pilot probably could, but it's just interesting to think that someone that had never flown an aircraft before was able to hit their target perfectly, you know, swoop down in a metropolitan area, fly the plane along the ground.
Oh, and where that plane hit in the Pentagon, wasn't that where they were keeping a lot of like the financial records?
Oh my gosh, we skimmed over the CIA's
it's so
trillions.
But
well, that's after the fact,
Yeah.
right?
What's the guy's Donald Rumsfeld?
Yeah, Rumsfeld.
Rumsfeld, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
but okay, so just like touching on the morning of.
Yeah.
It is, as someone that is a fan of aviation, I'm not a pilot myself. I'm not purporting to be. I'm just saying I find it relatively spectacular that 3 hijackers who had never flown an aircraft before were able to perfectly fly a commercial airliner into a target the first time they ever sat behind the controls of an airplane.
So they obviously had training.
They didn't fucking have Microsoft Flight Simulator back in when I mean that game was available in 2001, but it was like 2D
digital
and fucking
blocks. Yeah.
it looks fucking stupid. So I'm just saying it's pretty remarkable that they were able to pull that off.
So,
like relatively unlikely. Yeah.
So I think we can agree those people were trained. Like they had to have been some type of training to do that.
I will just say it's peculiar.
Yeah. Okay, so then all right, I feel like we should pull up that video. It's like a short 5-minute video real quick so people can watch like the people on the ground at the scene on the day and what they were saying. Can we pull that up real quick?
Yeah, let's preface this by saying this. The reason we want to show this video is because another part of this theory implies that, you know, supposedly the planes that hit I don't want to say supposedly. The planes that hit the World Trade Center were commercial airliners, notably from United Airlines. And people on the ground, a number of people have been recorded saying that plane did not look like a United Airlines aircraft. It was completely gray. It had no windows. It had no markings. It was like a military gray color. It did not look like a commercial airliner, which is very interesting to think about. So we'll play the video.
And then the bombs. People are saying firefighters were known to be saying there were bombs going off. Firefighters were telling other firefighters, stay away from the building. There's bombs going off. So
people claim that they heard demolition charges going off. Things like that. So there's a video that is kind of a compilation of some 9/11 pedestrian shot footage. We're going to play it now. If you don't feel like watching planes crashing into the World Trade Center, you can fast forward, you know, just like jump forward, I don't know, 10 minutes. Because obviously it's not like the easiest footage to watch.
If you're only listening, you can find this on BitChute and just type in 9/11 footage. Right. You can find it really easily. And if you want to watch it,
you can go
directly
to
through us.
our YouTube channel.
Find us on YouTube.
But just prefacing this now, if you don't want to watch 9/11 footage of the explosions and the stuff happening at the tower, just fast forward about 10 minutes now because I'm gonna play it right now.
Okay, it's already saying about the war games.
Yeah.
This is a month before they're already using drones.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, whatever you think about this footage, like, regardless, it's still, like, really harrowing to watch this. Like, this is fucking horrible. Like, that's fucking horrible. The music is so fucking stupid. I hate that this fucking...
was sitting here all morning. Yeah, it's all right there. I was wondering what they doing. And I said, what is the fire department just sitting there for? That's what I'm thinking. Is it a conspiracy?
No, it wasn't in the commercial airliner. No, that second one wasn't no commercial. No, the second one definitely. The first one I never saw. The second one I saw was big, but it didn't have any markings on it that I saw.
No, I didn't see any. The second one, it didn't have, you know, like no camouflage or anything.
No, no emblems, no logos.
I mean, it was moving so unbelievably fast. The last thing I saw before the second attack was the silver underside of the plane before it went into the building.
The plane wasn't no airline or anything. It was a twin-engine, big gray plane.
Mark, were you close enough to be able to see any markings on the airplane?
It definitely did not look like a commercial plane. I didn't see any windows on the side.
No, it was a black plane. It looked like a fighter jet.
It looked like a fighter jet.
There was a military plane. And it didn't look like a commercial jet.
Could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot.
Did you actually see the jet itself?
Yes.
And what type was it?
It was gray, to be honest with you. It was gray. It was like a 737.
They thought it was a fighter jet coming in to cover the city.
We've heard reports of secondary explosions after the aircraft impacted, whether in fact there wasn't something else at the base of the towers.
And the lobby looked as though a bomb had exploded there. All the glass was taken out. There were 10-foot by 10-foot marble panels that were once walls. Several people with their hair singed, skin hanging off.
And at that time, we heard a huge explosion. What I feared, I never in a million years feared those buildings coming down. Never. I did fear secondary explosion, or possibly a second plane. 30th floor. We hear another explosion.
Okay, that's a clip from Breaking Bad. Get the fuck out of here. That is so
I really
fucking
thought it was
stupid.
maybe the end of the world. There was
Whoever
going to be more
edited this is a
planes
jackass.
coming in. There was going to be bombs going off. I didn't know, to what degree they really just had us surrounded.
These are firefighters.
From World Trade Center, we took a hit on that last explosion. The man supposed to be evacuated.
So they're on the ground floor.
He's dead?
It's like they did.
It exploded. It all just blew us all in. The fire department's happened? All back. There's no pulse.
That's terrible.
The third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Is that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the
planet probably.
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion. But we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole fucking plane blew. And we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary.
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one was terrible. Then there was a third one too after that one. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside the building. So I don't think it can get any worse than this.
Big boom, come down the steps, everything fine until we got to the basement, and then everything just fell in. I got trapped in there with another guy, crawled out, kept getting hit in the head, kept bags sold around, finally we clawed our way out over the rubble.
Yeah.
Come on down.
You did all right. All right, way to be, Tom. Let's go.
Smoke.
Yeah, see white smoke at the bottom floor. Possibly other explosions weakening the building.
This was
And seeing
clearly
this kind of
the way the
really
structure
gets
it's
you.
chilling,
Seeing
man.
these images.
It's
is
chilling.
This is the
so
result
It's
of
chilling.
something that was planned. This is not, it's not accidental that the first tower just happened to collapse and then the second tower just happened to collapse in exactly the same way.
Exactly.
How they accomplished this, we don't know.
They're thinking about bringing the building down. They didn't say what building. They just said bringing a building down. Last few seconds, he took his hand off. He heard 3, 2, 1, and he was just saying, "Just run
Yeah,
for
you
your
can see
life.
the flashes.
Just run for your life."
You can see
And
flashes
then it
in
was like
Building
another
7.
2-3 seconds.
Yeah, I want to go back and watch this again. So, I don't know if anyone watching this has ever watched a building be demolished, but take a break from this video and just go watch like an old sports stadium being demolished, or an old
Any
office
building.
any building, and watch what like demolition charges look like, and then come back to this video and watch this clip of Tower 7.
A building down. Last few
This
seconds,
building
he
was
took
not
his
hit by an
hand off.
aircraft. Watch the windows in this area, and you see like flashes going off on the inside of the building.
3, 2, 1, and he was just saying, "Just run
And
for
in
your
this
life.
building
Just
that
run
was
for your
not
life."
hit by anything.
And then it was like another 2,
Just
3
falls
seconds.
straight down into itself.
You heard
Demolition style.
explosions, like boom.
Oh, you want to call your mother or something?
butter charge explosion.
That was obviously an explosion that you just heard.
All right? Don't worry about it.
This was
What the hell was that?
like you felt a rumble in the
And
ground,
then
like
the
almost
building
like you
just
wanted
falls.
to
That
grab
building
onto
just
Straight down.
falls by
something.
nothing.
Straight
It just
down.
falls straight down into itself.
Free flight. That's important to remember. It's falling at a free falling. It's free falling straight down is important to remember.
He said after the recent attacks which the U.S. has witnessed, the U.S. government ventured to point fingers at me, accuse me of involvement. The U.S. government has consistently blamed me for being behind every occasion its enemies attack it. I would like to assure the world that I did not plan the recent attacks, which seems to have been planned by people for personal reasons.
The president said that
Okay, can we pause it real quick?
Sure, of course.
Why would an extremist, religious, ideological...
Fundamentalist, yeah.
If his goal is really what it was purported to be, like, oh, Osama bin Laden is a, jihadist terrorist whose main goal is, death to America.
Why would he deflect
Why would he go,
blame?
that shit wasn't me?
Yeah.
Like,
Why
I definitely
would you-
didn't do it. It was
If
very
you're
weird.
proud of what you're, this is what your goal. It's your goal. This is your mission.
This is like your mission sent by God kind of thing, right?
You would be sending a message out to people. I did this.
Yeah.
This is our agenda. This is our goal.
It's very strange.
Down with America. That's the verbiage you would hear from someone with that kind of mentality that wants to kill hundreds of people and attack another country. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why?
Do we want to finish it, or do you want to stop there and just talk about what we've seen? Or do you want to keep going?
I mean, I don't know what else is on that video.
Let's see.
I don't know.
All right, so here's
Dick Cheney.
There's just a lot of evidence.
Oh, the reason I keep insisting that there was a relationship between Iraq and Saddam and Al-Qaeda, because there was a relationship.
2/3 of Americans say
There's
it's
Bush
not
saying that there is
worth
already
fighting.
free relationship.
So?
Whoa!
Okay, Dick Cheney is one of the most evil
He is
individuals
fucking
I have
crazy.
ever seen.
Yeah, Dick Cheney's like inhumanely evil. I highly
He said
recommend.
so?
I don't know which camera's on
my
me.
God.
I highly recommend whoever is watching this, if you haven't seen the movie
I can switch your
Vice-
camera, dude.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that.
I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just saying, go watch Vice, where Christian Bale plays Dick Cheney. First of all, it's just a great movie, but it also just shows how fucking evil this man was.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Okay,
Yeah.
that aside,
Yeah.
let's talk about what we saw. So,
right.
one of the first things we saw was a number of people that were on the street saying,
Yes.
the planes that hit the World Trades. I can't believe this is what we're doing this morning. This is so
This
crazy.
is insane. I just had that realization too, man.
Actually, no, fuck that. The first thing I want to say is that footage is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It's
terrifying.
fucking horrifying. It
Yeah.
almost makes you like want to cry.
Oh,
while
dude,
you
I
watch
have
it.
chills. I mean, I
Yeah.
have my
It's-
hair is standing up on my body
Like
right now.
you're
everywhere.
watching
It's-
these
it's
firefighters sit
crazy.
there and talk about how they just watched their friends die right in front of
Yeah.
like it's fucking horrible. Whether the government did this or Al Qaeda did this,
Yeah, I
whoever
mean, dude,
caused 9/11,
My hair on my body is like
whatever
crazy.
happened that day, the
It's-
events of that day are fucking. It was an abomination. Like, it's fucking horrific.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, watching that footage, I've seen all that shit before. It's still
man.
really fucking
It
hard
hits
to
you
watch
right in the
that.
heart.
So
But,
you see. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
go
no.
ahead.
What's important about that video? I think the most important thing is that these are people who are right there on the ground, looking at it, witnessing it, first-hand accounts.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing when you're looking at any investigation, who are the first-hand accounts? Who are the people who were there, who saw it with their own eyes? Those are the people you ask first, right? In any investigation. So to see that and to see the people saying it who actually watched it and witnessed it and felt it, and to hear what they're saying, it goes against everything that the narrative told us, right?
Now, I want to shout out to the people recording and questioning and
who are
investigating
on the ground.
that are there,
Yeah,
questioning
man.
people, trying to get some insight, what is going on right there while it's happening,
Yeah.
asking really good questions and trying to find out. And what's really, really, really crazy to me is you look at that footage, you look at the people being questioned and their answers, and then you turn on the news.
Exactly.
And you see something that's
completely
like,
different.
well, where are you getting this
Not at
information?
first, though. Not at first. The
Oh,
news
right.
was
Not at-
reporting.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
There's a lot of
I'm
bands.
talking about weeks after you can
There-
see the.
Okay, so we'll get there, but I just want to like jump into like what we saw. Now those could just be a few select accounts, right? So like we saw like 7 or 8 people in that video
At
that
least,
said,
yeah.
It was like 7 or 8 people that said, oh, those were not airliners.
Mm-hmm.
For those 7 or 8 people, there could be 500 people that said that was definitely United Airlines.
Possibly,
so,
possibly.
You know, I mean, the way the light is hitting the airplane based on where you're
Exactly.
standing, it could look a different color. Okay, so the planes that hit the World Trade Center, I know one of them had a tail number of N612UA. It was United Airlines aircraft. It's a Boeing 767. And that livery for United it's a gray plane on top with a blue underbelly.
Blue bottom.
Everyone there was saying gray underbelly, black, or it looked silver. Yeah. Dark blue is pretty hard to mistake for silver. But I mean, I don't know, like the way the light's hitting it, if it was in the shadows, that's questionable.
Yeah,
However,
for sure.
It is interesting that numerous people that were there said that plane didn't have any windows, or that plane was completely gray, or that plane had no logos or markings. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
And some people said it looks like a military craft.
Yeah.
And,
one person said it looked like a fighter jet. That person obviously doesn't know what a fighter jet looks like. But it's very interesting that there are a number of people that say, yeah, that definitely wasn't it. And they were saying that before. They were saying that the day of. They were saying that as it was happening. They weren't saying that like a month after, saying
these aren't like
hours before it happened.
People with preconceived
people who are just on the street. They haven't even been home to watch the news yet. They're just reporting on it live. He's just saying, holy shit, I just watched a plane hit that building. It did not look like an airliner. It looked like a military airplane. Yeah. They haven't watched the news
They have
yet.
no reason to make up anything.
Right.
No reason.
So, all right, we saw that happen. That was interesting. Then we saw clips of people reporting sounds of demolition or sounds of explosions happening inside the building after the plane crash, but before the collapse. That's interesting. We saw Building 7 collapse, which was a building nearby.
And they said the official report is that it suffered structural damage
resulting of the shock wave, right, from the initial explosion on the towers. Okay. I think, right?
So when in your life have you ever seen a building fall from structural damage?
Yeah, I mean, they demolish buildings in cities all the time. It doesn't knock down the buildings around it, you know?
No.
You see flashes going on in the window, which is very
I thought they
weird.
said it was fire damage, too.
Oh, maybe.
Fires.
Yeah,
internal fires. But
even tell you what, though, man.
You tell me any building that's fall from internal fires.
So they claim the World Trade Center's collapsed because the jet fuel got superheated on the steel beams. It melted the steel beams, which just caused a structural failure.
Right.
There was no jet fuel inside of Building 7, so why did it collapse like that? It also had steel support beams. It's very weird. You see like flashes going on inside the window, and then a building that was not hit by any sort of aircraft or anything just collapses in on itself.
Yes.
Straight down. Free fall. Yeah. That's very weird. And so it's just like, it goes back to when we were saying, why was the building shut down for so I'm not an engineer by any means. You know, I don't know shit about building structural integrity. I'm a fucking moron who just has a podcast and like works, you know, in an office where I have a podcast.
All three of us here.
I'm not claiming to like, oh, I studied engineering at MIT and I can tell. I'm just saying, I think it's kind of strange that a building made completely out of steel, like an engineering marvel, one of the strongest buildings in the world, just goes.
Yeah, well, there is paperworks that have came out that are peer reviewed from engineers and people who do study structural engineering that came out and said these buildings did fall because of, what was it, NATO? What are those bombs called? There's specific, thermite. There's very specific
like
type of bomb.
Is that what you were trying to say?
No.
I don't know if it's napalm. It's something like NATO something, but it creates this
chemical compound.
It creates this red kind of tint on the So this is known that the buildings were destroyed through those type of bomb. You can look it up. Actually, look it up, please, because I want to know the exact name of it. What were the bombs used? Because
what do you want me to type in?
Type in what were the bombs that demolished, or what were the theory behind the bombs demolished from 9/11, that demolished 9/11? Because we know now, like after looking at all of the metal that was in the aftermath, it all had this red hue to it, this tint to it, and that only happens through this very specific type of bomb that is used in demolition.
All right, here's an article.
I just want to know the name of the actual bomb.
Architects and engineers for 9/11 truth. This could be a fucking sketch website, could be legit, I don't know. It just says scientists find unignited explosive residues in WTC
That's
dust.
What it is, the residue, very specifically.
Active thermitic material discovered in dust from the 9/11 World Trade Center catastrophe.
So there's been scientific peer-reviewed articles about the actual residue that was found on the metal.
So there was a team that analyzed dust samples that were collected from 4 locations near Ground Zero. 1 sample was collected 10 minutes after the North Tower exploded, so it could not have been contaminated with particles from the cleanup efforts. All 4 samples contained the same unusual tiny red-gray chips, which turned out to consist not only, sorry, the text is really small, not only of the ingredients of conventional thermite, but also carbon, silicon, and other elements.
So you can look up the actual what the metal looked like aftermath. You can see a ton of pictures of red residue on the metal, and that's only from, it can only happen from a type of bombs like this that create that type of residue on. So that's another huge thing.
So
this has sources to it. I'm sure if you scroll to the bottom, you can look at the 25-page article. That's what I usually do. It's really important while digging for this information.
Sources.
You look for the source. Look, if it doesn't have any source, I would skip and keep looking.
Don't even worry about it.
Don't even.
Seen in rubble by dozens of people and corroborated by spots in NASA thermal images of Ground Zero. Okay, we can go down this 25-page report forever. All I'm saying is,
I think it's important to bring that up. Is that
sure.
there are there were found numerous pieces that had that residue on it, which only points to a certain type of bomb that had to have gone off to create that.
I think it's also important to realize that there are engineers, architects that question. There's people that have studied this science their whole life of buildings and structures, structural damage. Like they study this their whole life, and they look at these attacks, and they look at the buildings fall, and they, something goes off in their head that goes, something looks weird. Yeah. And they get a team of guys. They make studies. They're like, okay, they run simulations. Are we missing something here? Because this doesn't look right. A plane flying into this massive steel beam tower shouldn't collapse it like the way it did.
Well, and so, I don't want to call it the theory. The explanation given was that, in regards to the World Trade Center towers, was that the jet fuel, as a result of the plane hitting the World Trade Center, I guess there was a large amount of jet fuel that sat on the steel structural beams. It got heated up by the fire going on inside. It burns at a very high temperature, which melted the steel beams, and then that caused the structural failure. I believe it is known the burning temperature of jet fuel and then the thermal integrity of steel.
Right.
It should not have been able to melt it. And also, when the plane hits the World Trade Center, there's an enormous fireball. It's huge,
it's
massive explosion. It stands to reason that any of the fuel inside of the aircraft would have been combusted
I think it's a great
when
point.
the fireball happens. It's like, how could there have been jet fuel sitting on the steel beams if there was an enormous fireball which should have consumed all of the jet fuel? It's like when a plane is worried that it's going to crash, like in real life, if a plane is having, the landing gear won't come down or something, and there's a failure, and they're like, okay, there's a chance that we have to make a crash landing. One of the tactics that pilots will do is they will fly around in a circle to use as much jet fuel as they can, so that if they do crash, it drastically reduces the chance of an explosion.
Right.
There's an enormous explosion when the plane hits the World Trade Center. It is reasonable to assume that a large amount, if not all, of the jet fuel on board would have been consumed in the explosion. And then, even if there was a lot of jet fuel left over, it doesn't seem to make sense that heated jet fuel would melt through enough steel beams in this building to make it just...
Yeah, and then let's say it did. Let's say it did on that part. So, because it hit in one very specific place of the building where that jet fuel would have been burning. It wouldn't have sinked all the way down all the floors or gone up by any means. It would have stayed there, right?
The top of the building wouldn't be enough to completely collapse inwards on
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So if it were to burn that part of the building with that, wouldn't you think that that part of the building would have structurally fell, maybe tilted, came off a certain type of way? It's hard to imagine that if that part lost its integrity and melted completely, what would have happened to the building? What happens whenever you have any type of structure? And say you're playing a game of what's the game where you pull out the blocks and stuff?
Jenga.
If you have one part, doesn't it tilt one way, right? If one structure loses, this is just common knowledge, right? If one part of a structure, the top, middle, or anywhere, if loses its integrity, it tilts. It moves this way or that way, or it doesn't fall straight down on it because there's still integrity on the bottom part.
Right.
It wouldn't lose its integrity on the foundation.
Right.
The foundation would stay.
Even if just like the top collapsed, the base should still
the base
be there.
should stay because there's no way that is that heavy to knock 80 something floors from under it. It's just not physically possible.
So both the World Trade Center towers collapsed. I'm not saying they were demolished, but demolition style, I'll call it, because they just fall straight fucking down. Building 7 collapses fucking demolition style, straight down, which is very strange.
Building 7 has to be the biggest for anyone listening to this. If you have any type of, you still have any doubts about this, Building 7 has to be one of the biggest clues on this, right? One of the biggest like standout things about this whole story.
Yeah.
Building 7 just collapsing on its own.
Yeah.
It has to be, right?
And speaking of the Building 7 collapse, there is a clip. It only aired once on TV.
Oh, yeah.
But there's, I don't know if I can find it, but
I'm sure you could.
Oh, here it is. News anchor report the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7 before they witness it happen on live television.
There you go. Yeah, this happened too.
I don't know if this is the right one. We might have to edit this out, 'cause I don't know if this is the right one.
I want to tell you that we are.
This also happened during the OKC bombing.
Yeah, OKC bombing, same thing. There was an anonymous caller saying there was an explosion at the building, at the government facility.
Before it happened?
24 minutes before it happened.
Yeah.
This is recorded. You can look it up. There's legitimate sources.
So I don't know if this is the clip I'm talking about, but there is a clip where there's a reporter. They're like, we're going to go live to our reporter, Jim. Jim's on the scene, whatever. And they go to the reporter, and he's like, yeah, Tracy, I'm receiving word that World Trade Center Building 7 has collapsed. And in the background, he's standing in front of Building 7. He's reporting, and it's like right there behind him.
So crazy.
I don't know if that's what this clip is going to be, but let's watch it.
Yeah, let's see it.
We're getting word from New York right now that another building has collapsed. I understand that this is a 47-story building. Do we have pictures of it? I guess that's smoke now. Correct me if I'm wrong in the control room, please. But is that smoke coming from?
Now, they're reporting on this. I think where my mouse is, I think that's Building 7. I could be wrong.
This third collapse? Okay, that is what we're understanding, which makes sense because it looks like the sun is going down. But the heavy black smoke once again.
Look at that.
Hopefully at this point that building was empty, but I have no way of knowing that. But I'm hoping that enough people have cleared out of downtown Manhattan so that perhaps it wasn't as full as it might be normally around 5:30 on a Tuesday.
That information, of course, take a look at that right-hand side of the screen.
It just fell.
It's going down right now.
There it is.
Yep.
It went down right.
And they're literally talking about it. Now maybe they're playing an old video, like maybe they're playing a video that was recorded 10 minutes ago or whatever.
I have no way of knowing that, but I'm hoping
maybe
that enough
someone
people
was
have
like,
cleared
hey,
out.
the building collapsed, sending you the video now of the collapse, and then they played it, and they just started talking about it. But
Out of downtown Manhattan, so that perhaps it wasn't as full as it might be.
Down right there. That information, of course, take a look at that right-hand side of the screen.
Like
it's going down right now.
There it is.
Yep.
It went down right there. This World Trade Center and the two crashes.
So
that took
that could just be
after
like
the
a
plane.
weird news sequencing thing. Like, it could have already happened. They just played a video from like 10 minutes earlier or some shit. Because it doesn't say on that video, it doesn't say live look, or anything like that. So
if you look at the information also surrounding the air traffic controllers, there were 27 other
Hold on,
alleged
Adam, you might want to pot down the computer. I'm going to
hijackers.
watch this real quick.
There were 27 other alleged hijackings taking place the same day.
Right.
Oh, this is it. This is it. This is it.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure this is it. I don't have the audio until you pot it up, but I'm pretty sure this is the.
I got you.
This is the BBC is reporting on 9/11. I'm pretty sure this is the video where the guy is standing in front of it saying it's collapsed while it's still standing there behind him.
I'm not getting any. Oh wait, sorry.
We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very sketchy. As you can see behind me, the trade centre appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash.
Building 7 is right there.
Behind that, there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still
He asks her about
unable
the
to
Stanley
take on
Brothers
board
building or
what
the Solomon
has
Brothers
happened to
building,
them.
and then she doesn't even talk about it. She just starts talking about the World Trade Center.
This morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Tell us about the collapse of the Sullivan Brothers.
Well,
and then she doesn't
really
talk about that building at all.
Know. Details are very, very sketchy.
It's
As you can see behind
it's standing right
the,
there.
Trade Center
and then the cameraman's like, "Oh, fuck."
I find it interesting. She said details are sketchy.
And ash,
yeah.
and we know that behind
well,
us,
I mean,
there's
it
an
just
empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline.
But it's very weird that he asks her, tell us about the Solomon Brothers building collapse. She doesn't say anything about the Solomon Brothers building collapse, and it's also right there. It's standing. It's right fucking there.
Yeah. What the heck?
So, and then she just starts talking about...
Does it collapse while she's talking?
And a symbol of the
let's keep
financial
watching.
prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
Presumably there were very few people in the Salomon building when it collapsed. I mean, there were, I suppose, fears of possible further collapses around the area.
You're still talking about it.
That's what you would hope, because they don't really know where to turn. That's the very
She's not
sad thing.
talking about it. She keeps asking her about
very
it.
Traumatized
She's not saying, well, the Solomon building...
very, very hard.
Jane, I think many of us, when we heard the news, perhaps on the radio earlier today, were
she was just standing like 2 inches more to her left.
flabbergasted by it, and just couldn't comprehend it. I was wondering what it felt like for you being in Manhattan.
All right.
Well, unfortunately,
so that's it.
I think we've lost the line with
they lost the line.
Oh, we lost the line.
It was getting scrambled. The video got scrambled and they lost her.
I bet because it started collapsing. Okay. I don't want to sound like a crazy person.
Yeah,
but that's very...
I know,
I'm just
that's very interesting, though, that he's like, tell us about the Solomon Brothers building collapsing. They cut to her. She doesn't say anything about the Solomon Brothers building, and it's also standing right behind her.
So they got a tip that the building collapsed, and they're running a story
about it collapsing.
He's trying to get some live information to her.
They go to their live correspondent who's there.
What did
And she's not.
Give us some
she's
information.
Like, well, you can see the World Trade Center is gone. Iconic piece of the New York skyline. She doesn't say anything about Building 7 because it's still standing.
Crazy.
Yeah, but
not saying anything. I'm just saying it's crazy.
Look, we're just pointing out everything we think.
Because first of
all, we're
all,
just pointing everything out.
As I sit here with an American flag on my hat, I just want to say I'm very thankful that I live in a country where I can openly discuss this with my friends and
for sure, yeah.
I fucking love America, and one of the things that makes America so great is we have freedom of speech, and we can sit here and talk about things that in other countries you might not be able to talk about. So I am thankful for the people that have fought for our right to be able to sit here and talk about this. Because while I'm not saying that this is or is not what happened, I am saying there are some crazy fucking things that happened that we should just be able to talk about.
Yes, and we were pretty concerned about doing this before, like, oh, what about future jobs that possibly could, because I mean, this is the thing where this is known that people who bring up any type of conspiracy theories, they get ridiculed. They either can't get jobs some places, or I mean, there's a lot of stuff surrounding anything.
Stigma.
Yeah, the stigma of talking about things like this.
Like
and I told Tom, I was like, look, man, let's just talk about it. And like, this is what we talk about normally anyway. Like, if we want to put it out into the world for other people to hear, like, I mean, I don't think it's going to do really any damage. I mean, this did happen a while ago, and it's like I just want to be open and just be able to have this conversation and show other people that it's okay to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's okay to talk about it because it is interesting. And disclaimer, I fucking love America. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world. It's an incredible country. I've lived here my entire life. I'm not saying that, our government is evil or whatever, because I don't know for a fact whether or not any of this should happen. I'm just saying it's interesting. We should talk about it because it's so weird. But I love America, and
I back you 100%, man.
I wear this hat almost every day. I love our military. I'm just saying this is a really weird thing that happened. There's never been anything ever like this. There's never been another instance where someone crashed a plane into a building. So it's just crazy to look at it and think about it.
We got to go to the Pentagon. We got to pull up the video about the Pentagon getting hit.
Yeah.
We saw Building 7. We saw the Trade Center.
We talked about the World Trade Center.
So now we got to see the Pentagon footage, which to me looked like a little tiny missile just getting shot right into the building. There was no wreckage found, maybe a little couple scraps of an airplane possibly. The only video we have is a little grainy video that was taken, and we only get like 5 seconds of it. So there's so much surrounding Pentagon.
There was other footage that was confiscated by the authorities in the area. There was another camera across the street pointing straight at the Pentagon.
Y'all keep talking about this. I gotta go pee real quick.
Okay.
They came in and they confiscated it immediately.
So, all right, let's talk about the Pentagon while Adam, you're going to the bathroom?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Adam's going to go to the bathroom. So,
I mean, we can hold off on Pentagon until he gets back because I wanted to mention.
Well, no, I just want to preface it. I just want to say. Yeah. So, I think it's. I mean, everyone knows what happened. A plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon, resulting in the complete loss of life of everyone on the airplane, and I think a number of deaths of people that were inside the Pentagon. The Pentagon is one of the most high-profile and secure buildings in the D.C. area.
In the world.
In the world, yeah, for sure. It's very strange to me that on a day where so much... Because the Pentagon was not the first thing that was hit. The World Trade Center was the first thing that was hit. It's very weird that on a day where people would have probably had their phone fucking ready to go, because there were camera phones back then and camcorders and security cameras everywhere. It's very weird that there was only one shot of the collision at the Pentagon. And that one shot is like grainy security camera footage from, I think it's like from a security booth or something.
Right.
And it's such horrible footage that it's moving at like 1 frame per second. It's like shot,
yeah, you
shot,
see nothing.
shot. It's not even like really a continuous video. It's more of like a stitching of pictures together.
Right.
It's such horrible footage. But you do see something moving along the ground. It looks like a small object. Doesn't look like a commercial airliner. It strikes the side. There's obviously a huge fireball.
Explosion.
And I'm sure it's moving fast, so maybe it is hard to tell the size. But you look at what happened to the Pentagon. The size of the hole in the building feels weirdly small. There is no wreckage of an aircraft laying around, right? So there's no tail fin, there's no wings. There are no suitcases. There are no human bodies. There are no... there's no plane wreckage. Maybe, like I said, I'm not an engineer. Maybe I'm just a fucking idiot. And maybe when a plane crashes into the side of a building, it fucking evaporates. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I don't think it wasn't going supersonic speeds or anything. It's very weird that there's like no wreckage of the plane laying around except for pieces that one reporter was there on the scene, and he said all of the pieces of like debris were pieces that could fit in the palm of your hand.
Right.
So there's no big wings. There's no...
I mean, how fast was it moving?
I don't know. I know the planes that hit the World Trade Center were moving around 400 miles an hour.
There's
I don't
objects
know.
that can hit that come and impact that, obliterate themselves on impact.
Sure.
I mean, I don't...
I don't know. I'm not well versed in how plane crashes work.
There is other footage that was confiscated.
So
it's not like there was only one camera pointing at that one point of the building that we could watch and have evidence that it was a plane.
Right.
There's other footage that was confiscated. There's business owners across the street in the area that have cameras, looking at the area that would clearly see that wing of the building.
Yeah.
Confiscated, never released. We don't know. Destroyed.
There's footage of a reporter. This is also a clip that only aired once. I think it was on Fox or maybe CNN. There's a reporter, and they're like, "Oh, Jim, tell us what you saw from down there." And he's like, "Well, I can tell you right now, it wasn't an airplane." We
should pull that up too. Let's watch it. Let's pull it up.
Sure, yeah, let's watch it.
Why not? Because these are like facts that a lot of people just don't know exist. And I told this too to Tom and Aaron before we did this was. Like, if we're going to be talking about this, we have to show people what we've seen. Because if people haven't seen what we've seen, they're going to have a completely different perspective of the events that happened, right? Because we're watching something completely different from what they are. So, let's show them what we've seen so we can all share it. You know what I mean?
Here's a clip titled, "News reporter said there was no evidence of a crashed plane anywhere near the Pentagon."
Yeah, this is the one. This is it. I love BitChute.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting us on, Aaron.
Pot that up, Adam. Give us some sound.
Very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this sideway, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around.
Yeah, wouldn't there be a massive engine
outside the Pentagon? CNN's military affairs.
The black box, all those things like Tom mentioned.
Black box, yeah.
Where's the black box? Where's the wing? The wings wouldn't have exploded and burned up into nothingness. You know what I mean? It would have been something.
Well, they might have. A lot of fuel goes into the wings of an aircraft. Oh, but it's.
I don't know.
It's just weird. It's just. I'm not saying that this is what happened. I'm just saying it's weird that the reporter who's there on the day, like verbatim, said there is no evidence that a plane crashed into the Pentagon.
He's on the scene,
on
the site. Yeah, at the site.
He's saying I just walked up real close to it, and it doesn't look like any evidence of a plane having hit the Pentagon. He says the only debris is like shit that could fit in your hand. Where's the fucking suitcases?
Yeah.
You know, where are the people?
Where are the bones?
I mean, I know this is like morbid and like a graphic detail, but you know, maybe their bodies just evaporated, or you know, maybe they were just eviscerated upon the explosion. I don't know.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
All right, let's watch the video of the.
Now, maybe y'all have seen this, but I haven't. Have you seen accounts of people saying like, "Oh yeah, I watched the plane come down and hit the Pentagon"? Like, have you heard eyewitness accounts of people talking about the plane hitting the building?
Never.
Yeah.
Not one.
It's very weird. Why are there a million?
The footage of the
yeah. All right. Let's watch.
Because if you haven't seen the actual what we have of the footage that we have of this happening,
it's literally just.
skip
flash.
Also, another thing. Why is it such a rare video? Like, why?
Yeah, it's so hard to find.
How come a million people haven't seen that video? Like, why wasn't that like circulating on the news? Why is that like a video that not a lot of people
I think
have
they
seen?
did play this on the news one time or a couple times.
So here, I want to preface this by saying this is a garbage video shot from a stupid security camera on the side of like a security booth.
There's even a glare on it.
It moves at like 2 frames per second. So, and this is the only shot of any collision at the Pentagon. And it's very shitty. Here we go. So the video is playing. This is just how slow it moves. You can see that cop and like, okay, now watch the right side of the screen along the grass. You'll see an object come into frame shortly.
It's obviously in time lapse too, you can tell.
Yeah.
It's probably recording every few seconds.
Okay, there's the object, and then bam.
Dang. That was on the ground practically.
Yeah, it was like literally feet, maybe a few feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if anyone...
Okay, so I might be wrong. But I believe the plane that hit the Pentagon was also a United Airlines airplane.
That's what they said, yeah.
Which should have a dark gray and navy blue paint scheme.
That looks all white to me.
That looks like an all-white object.
That looks just like the drones, like one of the first edition of those drones that came out, the unmanned little drones. That's what that looks like to me, those little unmanned drones.
But
from that, at least.
So the Pentagon is roughly 70 feet tall.
70 feet tall.
Like 7 stories.
Look how small that thing looks compared to it, though.
A plane this size that hits it is roughly like 40 to 50 feet tall. So it should be like half the height of the building.
Yes, and it doesn't look like it
so
from
this
there.
is a very thin, and it wasn't like a private jet that hit the. I mean, it was a commercial airliner. It should be a really large object. Yeah. I mean, you can see like the body of this object fits in this little. Oh shit! Sorry, I have an alarm going on my phone to tell me to do something today. Let me make sure that doesn't go off again. Sorry, guys. So I'm just saying that object, just to the untrained eye, I could be wrong. I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like a commercial airliner. Also, it's moving along the ground. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the impact hole, the impact hole in the Pentagon isn't on the top. It looks like something struck it broadside. You know, it broadsided it.
Right.
For someone who's never flown an aircraft before, to get that aircraft down parallel to the ground and run it straight into the fucking broadside, very weird. But, okay, so the video moves very fast, right? And then the next frame is, bam, the collision, boom, huge explosion. Nothing is left, right? No debris.
Is that normal for if any airplane hitting an object, does it normally explode in that fashion? Okay.
Instantly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an instant explosion.
Right.
Yeah. If you ever watch
friction of the impact, right?
Which I mean the fuel tank being instantly collapsed, and it's if a plane ever hits the ground, it's an immediate explosion, which is why almost never are there survivors of a plane crash, because it's usually an instant explosion.
Right.
And you can get off that shot if you want, because I don't think we need to watch it again.
Nope.
But so yeah, I'm not saying that it was a missile or a drone. I'm just saying it doesn't look like what you would imagine an airliner striking the side of a 7-story building would look like.
Yeah, and what's the reason to hide the other videos? That there's got to be other footage, and why is it?
Yeah, and so then
why can't we see it?
That's
is this
the
true
only.
Or not? This wing of the building that got hit, the exact spot that got hit was the record keeping.
Look that up.
The record keeping financial section.
Yes.
And days before, was it the day before?
No, the day of.
No, it was the day before. I think Rumsfeld.
The money went missing.
Some CIA director came on and saying, "Hey guys, we're missing trillions of dollars, and we don't know where it's at."
We lost trillions of dollars. There's a video of that too, of the guy coming on saying we lost trillions of dollars.
1.3 trillion.
So here's another website, right?
2.3? I don't know.
It looks like a school child made it, whatever. No, it doesn't. It looks like a fine website. It just looks old.
Yeah, these are just old because no one's updated these things since.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, this is old.
Implications of the part of the Pentagon struck on September 11th. Like I said, this could be a garbage website that was written by some clown in his basement. I mean, none of this could mean anything, but implications of the part of the Pentagon struck on September 11th, while questions about what hit the Pentagon on 9/11 have been fueled by the government's concealing of relevant evidence. The location of the attack is an indisputable fact. The damage was confined to the outer 3 rings of the building's west block, a portion of the building that was undergoing renovation, scheduled for completion in mid-September of that year. The renovation was being undertaken on Wedge 1, one of 5 radial sections of the building. That was 5 days from completion. Targeting of Wedge 1 saves thousands. Because of the renovation, the stricken portion of the building was sparsely occupied, which is great, right? Obviously, the least amount of people that died, that's incredible. While perhaps 4,500 people would have normally been working in the hardest hit areas because of the renovation work, only about 800 people were there. That's great.
What a great coincidence.
That's awesome. Hopefully that wasn't deliberately. Hopefully it was just a happy coincidence. But of the thousands of people in the building at the time, only 123 people were killed. Of these, none were high-level officials.
Let's see what was that. Let's see if that was the part where the finance.
The fact that the attack targeted the one portion of the building that was mostly vacant is all the more remarkable, considering the approach required by the aircraft blamed for the damage. According to the NTSB, American Airlines. Oh, so it was American Airlines, which I think had like a silver livery at the time. American Airlines Flight 77 approached the Capitol from the west and executed a 320-degree descending spiral, losing 7,000 feet before leveling out at nearly treetop height as it made its final approach from the southwest. Instead of attacking the building in a direct fashion from a steep dive, the jet attack. Okay, so that just
I just want to know what the portion of the building.
Yeah, I was just reading to see if it eventually got there.
Yeah.
For max damage, wouldn't you want to come from a higher angle?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
of course.
know.
Yeah, you would have a wider surface area.
Well, the way the Pentagon is laid out, it's like the layers are stacked one and one behind each other. So maybe you would try and go head on. I don't know. Why was the Office of Naval? I don't know. I don't know which link to click on.
Well, I mean, the only reason we're bringing this up is because it's a known fact that trillions of dollars went missing the day of.
Is it trillions? Trillions is such a crazy quantity.
Trillions. That's why it's so crazy.
This was in the news.
Yes, there was a guy, CIA,
Where's
or whoever,
the trillions? Yeah.
Trillions of dollars missing after 9/11 attacks. And so that's another huge part of this story, because a lot of times whenever we have any type of conspiracy theory or any type of crazy thing happening, you usually want to follow the money. Where does the money take you?
Follow money.
And if money just magically goes missing, where did it go? Who has that money?
Yeah, I would highly suggest everyone that's interested to learn more, wants a little more detail, want sources, go to the CorbettReport.com. He has a whole section dedicated to 9/11, and one of his documentaries are called 9/11 Trillions, Follow the Money. And he goes behind all the people, names whistleblowers. He has video footage of interviews, all the sources that comes along with it. The whole transcript's there, and it's really insightful, you know.
So the Pentagon is a weird one. Everything you mentioned. It's also very strange that there's one fucking video shot of it happening, and it's a garbage shot of something that doesn't even look like a plane crash.
Nope.
So that's horrible and crazy that that's true. I know we're running kind of long. We've probably been going for almost 2 hours.
Yeah,
now,
about
right?
hour 30.
It's only an hour 30? Okay.
Yeah.
So before we call it, maybe we should touch on the fourth incident, which is Flight United 93, which was stopped by the passengers and made a crash. I don't want to call it a crash landing. Crashed.
Well, then we have to save some time to talk about the Patriot Act and all of the implications of what happened. Because
sure. Let's just talk about Shanksville really quick. Flight
yeah.
United 93. So United 93 was a flight that was hijacked coming out of Newark, New Jersey, I think. And it was headed for, was it headed for the Capitol building or the White House?
That's what it said, somewhere in D.C.
Either the
yeah.
Maybe they don't know for sure, but I know it was either the Capitol building or the White House is where that plane was supposedly going. The passengers retook the cockpit from the hijackers, I guess like in a scramble for the controls. They ended up crashing the aircraft into just a field, farmland outside of, I think the name of the town is Shanksville, Pennsylvania, resulting in the loss of the lives of everyone on board. Numerous weird things about that. People claim that there are satellite images that show that hole being in the ground in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the plane crashed before, like weeks or months before the plane crash happened. Weird. There was one guy who filmed. He didn't film the crash, but he filmed like immediately after it happened. I guess he owned land nearby, and he was filming like the plume of smoke, and he's talking about it, and he's like, you know, didn't look like a plane crash or whatever he says. That guy died like 2 weeks after that video came out. It was very weird. He was like the one guy that came close to like witnessing it happen, and he mysteriously died like right after posting that video, or that video went public. I'm actually gonna look that up.
Yeah, why not?
What the heck?
And then because that was super sketch, and I really want to dive into the Patriot Act and after
David,
this because
David Berkebile. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
What did he die of? Do they know, or do they just say?
Yeah, let's
natural causes.
Yeah, you can see here David Berkebile, Shanksville, PA resident. So let's look his name up.
Aaron, have you dove into like the implications of the Patriot Act and how it made like U.S. citizens could be viewed and perceived and treated as terrorists?
Yeah,
like Christian organizations,
what I do know
radical.
Is that the vagueness of the wording used is terrible, because anyone at any time could be sought as a terrorist.
Even U.S.
citizens. Not only that, but you could be detained, questioned, and tortured.
Yeah.
Taken to Guantanamo. There's still guys at Guantanamo Bay, right? The prison. Is that where it is?
Yeah.
There's still guys right now there being freaking tortured.
Yeah. And I remember and
I think there's also only like 6 of like the 40 or 50 people that they took there and tortured were actually convicted of any crimes.
Right. Crazy. And I also remember
no justice for anyone that was innocent.
There's like a list of like what all of the possible like threats that could be I guess convicted under the Patriot Act. And they were even saying extremist, like Constitution extremists, people who were like fundamental like constitutionalists, people like that.
This makes me think of the Waco incident.
Oh, that Waco's definitely tied into this, because they had trained police and trained military to do in-home invasions and what were the proper way to do an in-home invasion. Why would you need to do that? under any circumstance, right? To burn down buildings and to do stuff like that. And I mean, it only makes sense that they would want to prosecute people who were fundamental, like, constitutionalists or people who believed in the Bill of Rights, like hardcore extremists on that.
Yeah, because the Patriot Act contradicts everything
Exactly.
that our Constitution holds.
Exactly.
The ideas.
Exactly. So that's super sketchy, man. Do you find anything, Tom?
No, not really. I think maybe I'm actually wrong. I don't know. I didn't watch the video, but apparently, like, descriptions of the video that I was just reading said that he does claim plane crash, and I also think he didn't die until 2004. So I don't know. I could be wrong about all that David Berkebile shit. That's just something I heard, and I'm not really finding any good answers on any of these links.
Well.
We can watch the video if you want. It's right here. It's like he calls into CNN and they play his video that he sent in. It's up to you if you want to play it, but here it is. Oh, there's an ad, so wait 3 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know much about this.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this video, it's interesting to watch. There's also a movie that was made about this. Yeah, you might want to give it some audio.
Crash over on Lambertsville
Looks pretty
Road.
far away.
And probably had a terrorist bomb on board that blew up. Don't know anything more than that. That's what I heard on the scanner. I just saw the smoke come up, and the explosion shook the house clear over here. And we are, what, 15 miles from Lambertsville.
Really? Is that normal?
It shook the heck out of the house.
If there's a big enough explosion, yeah.
Yeah?
15 miles away.
It's crazy.
What else has happened?
So, all right, so he keeps talking.
They ran one into the Pentagon and into the World Trade Center, and we're watching it on TV, and this one happened.
So this was the last one to hit?
I think this was, this is the 4th incident. It was like an hour after, or a couple hours after.
Black cloud, just mushrooms right up
This
into
guy.
the air.
Yeah, he's just an older guy.
Black fire.
Okay, anyway, so.
Approximately.
So
3
why,
minutes
I have a question. Why was there 27 other alleged hijackers on the same morning?
Because of the test, right? We acknowledged that there were...
These were anonymous calls coming in.
These were anonymous calls, okay.
Yeah.
Anonymous calls of people reporting planes being hijacked.
Hijacked, exactly.
So you're saying 27... There were 27 other planes that reportedly hijacked?
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it created
I didn't know that.
massive amounts of confusion because they're trying to figure out which
So
ones
air
were
traffic
real,
control is just like, yeah.
Air traffic control was lost and
Now, I mean,
in the
now,
most chaos
so,
in the history.
But you could argue that, like, if this was terrorist, I mean, terrorists were calling in and reporting plane crashes just to make chaos. I mean, so like you could make the argument that,
sure,
that everything is everything.
You can listen to the audio of these people calling. It's all recorded. You can just find it all online.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that. That might be a bit much to embark on here.
Yeah, I'm not saying do it,
but that video, that is the one piece of footage of anything crash related in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly, and you guys can talk and I can look for them, but supposedly there was satellite images of that hole already being in the ground.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
But
that's
so
that's
very
not very
strange.
evidence based, so it's hard to look into that kind of stuff.
I mean, now if I can pull up some timestamp photos from like September or like August 3rd of 2001, and there's a hole in the ground, that would be crazy.
Sure.
So if you guys want to talk, I can. You guys talk
you can go
about
ahead.
the Patriot Act.
Yeah,
I'll
because
look for that.
I think the Patriot
I
Act.
really want to get into the
dude,
Patriot
because it is so extreme. Like when that passed, it was so far extreme for any American president or any political move, right, to completely disregard our foundation of this country, to disregard the Bill of Rights and disregard everything what that makes America America, like these fundamental beliefs, right, that we have and what makes us American. It goes against it all. And
it's never retracted.
It's
Anytime
never been retracted.
There's policy created in light of something fearful.
Yeah.
It stays indefinitely.
Yeah.
You know.
And
right.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I wrong?
No. That's the biggest thing. That's why it's so. That's why we should be so cautious. We should move with extreme caution when we try to pass anything or make anything law that inflicts our rights. Extremely cautious. right? Especially, I mean, it's crazy because
how much of it is justifiable,
right?
You know, it should be very cautious making any decision because
it is so hard to go back on those things. Once you make it into law, you know how hard it is to make something like that you already passed and worked so hard to get into law and take it back. It's one of the probably hardest things to do in politics. So that's why this event was so extreme. Like what else could possibly bring people to say, okay, I agree, you can take my rights away. Okay, you can take my rights away only if I'm protected and I feel secure. Because it's fear-based. We know how the human psychology and the human body works whenever it's in fear. It activates the sympathetic nervous system, and it activates the reptilian brain, which is the earliest and oldest part of your brain, which makes you act not in reality. It forces you to react in a way that's not
it doesn't
prefrontal.
Allow
it's not the thinking brain.
Thinking,
it's not critical. It's not the prefrontal brain. You react from here, and it's very reaction-based.
Yeah. See, just watching those images of the planes crashing into the towers, like, I have that feeling in me, like anger.
Yes, it's fear, anger.
I'm just like, wow.
It's reactionary.
That happened, and there's people that died, and I'm so mad. And I'm just like, we need to do something about it. So a lot of people will back that decision to like, hey, look, we're going to spy on you, but it's for your safety.
Yes.
And we're like, do it, please. We need to find these people, you know?
Yes. And so that's why something like that, and this is all speculation, of course, right? I mean, it's a I don't know if this is the exact reasons why 9/11 happened, was to push this act forward and to create fear in order for people to want their rights to be taken away. Because obviously people agreed to have their rights taken away, right? You said, yes, please take away my rights so that I can feel secure and safe. That's what we agreed to as a country when we passed this law. So what would bring people to do that? Fear. That would be the only reason I would feel like they would want to do something so extreme on American soil to kill someone. If this conspiracy is true, if this all happened the way we're laying this out to happen, right? I mean, it just sounds so extreme and crazy, but like, what other thing could bring people to want their rights to be taken away like that? You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy.
That was one of the. I think, at the end of the day, it's a multi-layered conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's a complex conspiracy. Our rights haven't. As a result, rights were stripped away.
Yes.
As a result, an entire war was.
Entire war was fought, and it's still being fought to this day.
No, we've pulled out of Iraq.
Completely?
Yeah.
There's still. Oh, okay. Well, I still think there's operations going on there. Well, they're still dropping drone bombs in there and stuff like.
Well, we're talking Syria.
Okay, that's Syria. Okay, sorry, that's still Middle East.
I could be wrong, but I'm almost.
We're still in the Middle East, though.
We have 0 boots on the ground in Iraq. I'm almost positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that happened. Okay, did Obama was the one to officially take troops out?
He began. I could be wrong. I believe
this
he
was very
began
recently,
the process of pulling us out of Iraq. I don't think we reached 100% removal until Trump was in office.
Okay, so very recently.
Let me look
very
this up.
recently, we were still fighting a war for almost 20 years, man, because of this.
And not only that, we were almost directly responsible for creating more extremists.
Yeah.
In that region.
I mean, we knowingly funded these groups. We knowingly funded these groups. We funded ISIS.
America is like this octopus with its freaking.
We got our arms in everything.
Yeah, tangled up in everything.
We're all over the world. We have military bases all over the world, trying to control. We're knowingly overthrowing other governments. That's happening.
Oh yeah. Okay. Everything I'm seeing. U.S. completes troop level drawdown. That doesn't say complete removal. No timeline as U.S. to move remaining combat troops out of Iraq.
I don't think we're ever going to remove completely.
I don't know if we are still considering.
Maybe it's not considered a war still, but I think there's.
I don't know if we're considering it an active
it's an
conflict.
Occupation.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I should. I'm not going to speak on it because I'm not educated enough on it.
All I'm going to say is we were there for a very long time because of this action.
9/11.
Yeah, we were there before 9/11. Obviously, the desert storm and all that stuff. So,
I know.
But we were there for oil.
I was out of the conversation for a little bit because I was looking at pictures.
Here's another thing.
We were there because under the assumption of there being weapons of mass destruction.
Right. I recently learned this,
which we never found.
Blew my mind. The opium that was coming out of the Middle East Guys, look this up, Tom. This blew my mind.
Okay. This can.
Okay.
I think
we're going to keep going. We've concluded 9/11.
Yeah. Well, for real, I have so much work to do today, so we can't start going on. Okay.
But I want to tell you about the opium was at, I think 3% or below 10% of the world's opium distribution was coming from out of the Middle East. I forgot what country exactly. Maybe Afghanistan. I'm pretty sure. 3% was coming out of there pre 9/11. After 9/11, right now, I want to say more than 93%, probably 95 to 98% of the world's supply of opium is coming out of the Middle East. You can look that up. That's charted from the UN. And
I would believe if you told me that the CIA is involved in massive drug trafficking.
That's already
in the Middle
proven
East.
too.
Yeah, because CIA drug trafficking is one of the biggest conspiracies going back to the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Oh, yeah.
Out of South America, Europe, Africa, Asia. I mean, the CIA literally moves drugs all around the world, and we know that for a fact. Especially working with mafias and cartels for insider information. I mean, that's factual information right there. So I wouldn't disagree at all. I think that's probably true.
Well, you can look it up. The UN has charts and graphs of this happening.
Yeah.
You can see it slowly rising all the way to where it is now today, which is insane. But that's another thing I recently learned, and now it just blew me away. I was like, what? I had no idea about this. It's not reported on your mainstream media.
Right.
So,
any more words on 9/11? I mean,
no. Well, there's something I wanted to say. I know I was gone for a little bit because I was looking at those pictures of Shanksville, and I was reading through this forum, and there was a little heated argument in one of those forums because someone was saying how can you say Flight United 93 didn't crash? Those people that were meant to be on that airplane are gone. Those people. So maybe we can edit this into earlier in the podcast because I do want to say this. This is very important.
Yeah.
The assumption that they were military planes that crashed into the buildings on 9/11, or that it wasn't a plane and it was instead a missile, or it was a controlled explosion, whatever the fuck. I know there's a lot of theories that insinuate they weren't passenger planes that struck the buildings. Regardless, there were 100% people that had tickets to be on those flights that day that didn't come home.
Yes.
Whether those were the planes that hit the building or not, those people 100% were real people. Those people 100% are unfortunately no longer with us. Their loss of life is insanely tragic. I'm not trying to say that for certain it was military planes that hit the World Trade Center.
We don't know.
But what I'm saying is, whatever happened that day, the people that were on those airplanes died. And it's horrible. By talking about the theory of a missile hitting the Pentagon, or just a detonation being the hole in Shanksville or whatever, those people that were on those planes that day actually died. Those people lost, family members were lost that day, sons, husbands, wives, children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren. So those people did actually die. I'm not in any way insinuating that because it was a missile. Well, explain those people that don't exist anymore because they perished and their families don't get to have them anymore.
I can imagine having a family member die in that way, and I can hear someone trying to look at this.
I would
in
imagine
a way
how
that's,
infuriating. I mean, imagine you lost your husband or your father in one of the 9/11 attacks. They were a passenger on the plane, and then you hear some three fucking morons on a podcast going, "It was a missile that hit the side of the Pentagon." It's no, my dad died that day on that plane.
Right.
Those people 100% died, and it is horrible.
So
I cannot express enough how fucking awful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so this begs the question, though, if those weren't the United planes or the whatever planes that they said they were, then what happened to those people?
I don't know.
That begs the question, right?
Yeah, and that rabbit hole would sound so crazy to go down that I don't even want to talk about it because it sounds so batshit insane.
That's definitely a part of the story.
Yeah, so it's that's something you have to consider. If you subscribe to the theory of, there's people on the ground that were saying it looked like a military plane, and if you start to subscribe to the theory that it was a military plane or a drone or whatever that hit the buildings, then you have to ask yourself, well, what happened to the people that had tickets for flight?
It's so easy to dive down these rabbit holes without remembering, these are real people, real lives.
Because there are absolutely people that had tickets to be on those planes. There are absolutely people that got calls from their family members saying, I'm on a plane, it just got hijacked. I don't know if I'm coming home, but I love you. That shit really happened. Their deaths really happened.
For sure.
It is 100% legitimate. and tragic. I just feel like that needs to be said. I am in no means insinuating that those people didn't exist or that they did not perish that day.
Yeah.
It happened.
For sure.
And it's horrible.
Or there shouldn't be justice brought upon their lives.
And that's another thing. Whether this was a conspiracy or not, like, if it is a conspiracy, or if the conspiracy theories are true, that's 10 times more tragic. Like, that's horrible. Whatever happened that day was evil. Like, pure evil.
For sure.
Whether it was
either way,
terrorists hijacking planes or a government-orchestrated inside job, whatever the fuck, it was immensely, immeasurably, unforgivably evil. And those people's deaths are the result of something horribly evil happening. And I just want to say, I want to pay my respects to all the people who lost their lives and the people who lost family members that day. Because the people that had tickets to be on those airplanes really did die. And it's horrible. So I just want to say that. I just want to say that.
Yeah, man. I totally agree. And I want to second that because, yeah, we can get so caught up in this whole story. And I love it. I love the diving into the conspiracy theory aspect. It's something that grabs my attention. I think it grabs millions of people's attention, and it's something that's really like it's almost fun for me to do. Like I just want to read and look at all this stuff that I didn't know about. But then you do have to, and this is something that has happened throughout time and time again. And even I remember listening to Daniele Bolelli on the History on Fire podcast talking about the Mongolian wars and the Mongolians taking over like half of the world, and how a lot of people try and justify and say like, yeah, the Mongolians brought the Silk Road, brought a lot of trading, brought people together from all around the world, and all of the good things they did, and then completely overlook the millions of lives that they took in order to get there. And it's a huge problem when we look at these things, is we forget about the lives that were lost, and so it's really important to acknowledge that.
Yeah. I think I couldn't agree more. Like, it's so important to acknowledge it. And whatever you believe, like whether you believe, this conspiracy happened, or whether you believe it's legitimate and everything is the way it was explained to us, either way, like, nothing but respect to the first responders that laid down their life. Nothing but my respects to those that lost their life and things like that.
I know that a lot of the families that were involved reached out to the 9/11 Commission report, looking for some kind of justice. Where are we at? What's the report looking like?
Yeah,
all the questions that are involved, and not getting any information back. It was a failure in so many levels. I mean, that's just a whole other part of this conspiracy. The conflict of interest of the board members and everything involved. I mean, you can go into that as another rabbit hole another day. Just saying that the commission report is a failure on
it's a huge failure. It's a huge failure because they gloss over so much of what happened that day that you almost want to scream at them. And that's why I was talking about the C-SPAN live. So many people were calling in. They were like, look, why aren't you answering these questions? We want to know. Tell us. Like, we want to know. We're U.S. citizens. We have the right to know. Please tell us more about this. And they just completely gloss over. They just completely avoid it. And, it's a huge problem in this country in general. When we'd have any type of major problems, major disasters, wars, anything, like when people try to stand up and say something, they're like, tell us more. What is the reason we want to go to this war? We want to do this. We want to do that. And a lot of times the government overrules everyone. They're just like, sorry, we think this is in the best interest of the country. And people don't have a say.
There's
it's
also
so
people
rare
that are put in power that we have no say.
Right.
They're just...
They're elected officials.
There's elected officials that we vote for, and then there's officials that are put in power by those elected officials.
Right.
Just like the head of 9/11 Commission report. The whole board was just put together by our government with all these conflicts of interest. You can look it up and read more about it if you want.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. And I also want to say, this is something I feel very strongly about when we're talking about the Patriot Act, is that we should be very cautious. And I would love, Tom, if you could pull up this quote by Benjamin Franklin, because I want to get it right. We should be extremely cautious when we're giving up our rights. And this is happening right now in this very moment in this country. We're giving up our rights because of COVID-19. People are losing their rights as we're talking. We have just lost our huge freedom of speech is being taken away on social media. Our freedom of speech is being taken away on social media. and on all of these websites where they think that because they're independent companies that they can override the freedom of speech that we have in this country. And that's why I also think it's very important to have this conversation about conspiracy theories, because a lot of people don't feel like, oh, what if I get canceled? What if we get banned? A lot of people can't even talk about these things on their normal everyday talk shows or podcasts because they feel scared and afraid that they're going to get banned, or you know what I mean? No, don't be afraid. We all need to stand up and say, look, we have rights. And we need to stand by that. This is what built this country. Like, so, you know, we should be very cautious whenever we say, yes, ban them, yes, cancel them, yes, we should take away their rights for this and that reason.
Well,
no,
there's a mainstream...
Think twice. I just want y'all to think twice about the rights that are being taken away right now because of COVID-19 and all of these other things that have happened throughout history.
There's a mainstream narrative.
Right.
There's a mainstream narrative that mega corporations are trying to stick with, and anyone talking against it is going to be punished in some way because it goes against what they believe and what they think is right. And everyone else is just labeled as conspiracy or like a misinformationist. And it's crazy. Yeah. So, yeah, I completely...
Did you find that quote about liberty, security?
I have like 17 of Ben Franklin's top quotes. I don't really know which one you're talking about.
Type in.
Are you talking about the one that says...
Just type in Benjamin Franklin, liberty and security.
Yeah, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Say that again.
Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
It's huge, right? It's so, and we need to listen to that. Like, people need to understand that to the core.
I mean, like, I know, Adam, you and I have our disagreements about COVID and safety protocols and shit like that, but I do see where you're coming from. I do see.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a very big proponent of, like, you should question everything and things like that. So yeah, like, that quote it's a great quote.
It's fundamental to this country and the country we live in, and but very particularly this country. Not the world. I mean, has their own things that they got going on, but this country in general was built on these fundamental aspects of freedoms and these rights that we have. And they're slowly being taken away after event because of security, because we want to feel safe. We want to feel like please protect us. Please protect us. You can have our rights as long as we're protected and safe. We have to be very cautious about that.
I think that theme rings louder than any other theme right now in our time with COVID.
Yeah,
you know,
for
that
sure, dude.
Safety, liberty, where's the balance?
Yeah, we have
That's a whole conversation that I think it's important to have with people.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just like suppressing the need to speak out and say, hey, this isn't right. We have rights here, you know, like mandatory vaccinations, all these other mandatory, even masks, you know, like, how is someone supposed to say, oh, I have breathing problems, I can't wear a mask, and not be able to go shopping in a store? I don't know. Or as a business owner, what's your right to stay open? And is it security, but failing as a business and going bankrupt?
Yeah,
or is it safe, or is it going open and getting people sick?
I mean, because like, it's hard. This isn't even what we were meant to talk about this episode, but I guess we're going to touch on it for a little bit. Like, I mean, the virus is very real, whether you think it's not deadly at all or it is deadly, whatever. It's crazy because it's like, yeah, you want to try and keep people safe, right? Like, if there is a deadly virus going around.
But at what cost? That's the question.
At what cost?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think masks are that big of an inconvenience. You know what I mean? Like, I've worked shifts where I literally wear a mask for like 10 hours straight. It literally doesn't bother me at all. And like, people that are like, I can't fucking breathe in this thing, I think that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, we don't have to go down the very specifics of it all.
I know, but what I'm saying is like you and I, and I guess me and Aaron as well, we have disagreements on like the whole like, oh, they're trying to fuck us over, like they're pushing COVID on us and they're going to strip our freedoms away. I don't necessarily think that's happening, but I can understand how it could happen. And I agree with you. It's very important to question everything. I definitely agree. Liberty is like one of the most valuable things we have in this world. So I see where you're coming from. I just want to go on record saying, like, you know, we disagree, but I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Anyways, just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, regardless of if a mask works or not, or a vaccine is 100% safe or not, I think what it comes down to is your right to choose for yourself.
Exactly.
And
that
should be held. Our individualism.
That should be held to the highest standard. Number one concern.
Right. Like, I'm pro the vaccine. I have the vaccine. I'm vaccinated. You know, I would encourage other people to get it. But the idea of people being fired Like, numerous people in the NFL have been fired for, like, one of the assistant coaches of the Minnesota Vikings was fired because he refused to get the vaccine.
It's ridiculous.
People in other industries, not just sports, have been asked to leave because they refuse to get the vaccine. Some companies have made it mandatory to get the vaccine. One football team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, implemented a wristband system to where personnel that have been vaccinated wear a certain color, and people that haven't been vaccinated wear... Yeah, in training camp, you wear a yellow or a red wristband based on whether or not you've been vaccinated. That, I think,
it's reaching.
I don't know.
It's reaching, and it's over the top.
It's a little
Before
sketchy.
we know it, those are going to be biometric ID wristbands that measure heartbeat, measure blood pressure. Oh, you hear the great leaders speak on TV, and you get anxious. Oh, that's we need to send the stop police on your ass.
I don't know.
I'm telling you.
True.
There's going to be
sure.
We're working on virtual passports, health IDs.
Well, okay.
It's all going to be
so
intertwined.
New York just went to mandatory requirement of vaccination records to dine indoors and something else. It was dining indoors and something else. But in New York now, you have to. It's mandatory that you provide proof of vaccine. I also believe New York City is going to a digital vaccine passport, like something you pull up on your phone.
That's what it is.
But yeah, New York. I think it was yesterday. New York City said it.
Scary to me, man.
I mean, yeah, it's terrifying.
It's
but
because
it's also like half of my brain goes, yeah, this is a very like the disease is real, and it's important that like we try and contain it and make sure no one else gets sick or dies. But then the other part of my brain goes, what the fuck? George Orwell would like be rolling in his grave if he saw us walking around.
This is the most Orwellian thing that has ever happened in this country. It's happening right now.
It's so crazy that it almost doesn't even feel real.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I just want people to be.
It's because it's.
I just want people to be safe. And
it's because of what it leads to.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. And I want people to be safe too.
Yeah.
But we can do it in a way without stripping our rights, without invading our privacy. Like your health information, I feel like that's my personal. I don't want everyone to know what medication you're on, what diseases you're on. Because right now we're all asymptomatic carriers that are. You could kill your neighbor, kill your grandparents.
So don't go see anyone, even if you feel fine. Like it's hard. And then,
or if you don't have your biometric ID card, you can't do what you want to do.
Well, and a while ago, I don't know if this is still a thing, but I know on like some I think it was all Android phones, maybe just Google phones. Might have just been Google phones, like Google Pixels.
Can tell if people around you.
If someone around you had received a positive COVID test, your phone would alert you like you are in the vicinity of someone who has a positive COVID test. Like
that blows away your rights. Like that takes away all of your rights is your personal rights to know what you personally have.
But then it's like
in your own body.
That's the only medical data that was being. It wasn't like revealing what your blood type. It was just revealing whether or not you tested positive for a viral disease.
Yeah, but it's what it leads to.
I know. I know.
What does all this lead to?
I know. It's like what it opens the door for and what it leads to. But like, fuck, I just want the disease to go away. So like, I can understand the need for like, okay, hey, maybe you should. Like, okay.
But is it about like? I just get this feeling that all these decisions are being made, and it's not really about health. Like, how is that about health?
Well,
health is like if you, it depends on how you look at health, because if you eat right, exercise, and everything, you can still catch disease, you can still get cancer, right?
I mean, there's like marathon runners that were catching it, and like some marathon runners were dying. I mean, like that was actually happening, you know?
Right.
So it's like, you know, whether you eat fucking kale and chickpeas 3 times a day and like you work out and do yoga and shit, like you can still get it. You can still fucking die. Granted, it's far less likely, but like it's still possible, right?
Way less likely.
It's way less likely, but it's still. I mean, technically,
astronomically less likely if you're.
But
less
mathematically, it's unlikely. Period. Right?
I mean, if we look at the
death
studies,
rate is still already super low. You know.
Yeah, true.
But it's just like
why aren't they vitamin D?
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
Like, dude, it's just like I can't imagine. Why are we going to? Virtual passport, health passports, like.
All right,
come on.
No pun intended. Let's land this plane.
Oh God.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you want to tease the next? I mean, I have a list of ones that
go ahead.
But we talked before this, and we're like, there's no way we can cram in more than one.
Look what happened. Like, we're 2 hours in, and we're still
So I mean, imagine if we tried to like make this like a Ford conspiracy show. Like, imagine if we only tried to talk about 9/11 for like 20 minutes and then do 4 others.
No way.
Yeah. So I have a list that I could think of different conspiracies. There's CIA drug shipping. We talked about that. We can make a whole episode on that.
I would love that.
Government chemtrails.
Oh yeah.
highly controversial.
Oh yeah.
I'll mention, if you're interested, Operation Sea Spray. Look it up.
Okay. Operation Sea Spray.
Government staged terror attacks, 9/11. We touched on it a little bit. False flag is what it's kind of called. MK Ultra, Project MK Ultra.
Oh yeah, that's a huge one. And that's a proven one.
That goes hand in hand with Project Blue Beam.
Okay.
Now, have you heard of
I haven't heard of...
No, there's Blue Beam. That's the one they were working on.
Blue Beam?
Time travel or something. Then there's Blue Bird.
Okay.
And then the infamous Alex Jones frogs turning gay. that's actually...
They turn the frogs
gay. He has a legitimate reason to think that, because there's something called atrazine, herbicide.
Okay.
It turns amphibians female. And then there's unethical human experimentation. We can go in. There's so many different ways.
Injecting people with syphilis in, what was it, Louisiana, Mississippi?
The Tuskegee syphilis.
Tuskegee experiment.
Tuskegee syphilis study.
Government injected black people with syphilis.
Yeah, which is just a tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole Wikipedia page on unethical human experimentation, and it goes by different countries, and that's one of them.
All right, so those are some little teasers for maybe next time Aaron comes on. We'll do another little conspiracy show, which is just so fun. I had really fun doing this. This was awesome.
This was fun.
So really appreciate you coming on, Aaron, and sharing your insight and getting to talk with us. It was fun.
And thanks for everyone joining in and making it through this, having an open mind, and I don't know if you're cussing at your screen or whatever.
These motherfuckers people are unsubscribing. We're all going to get canceled. Also, completely unrelated, Kemba Walker just signed with the New York Knicks. I'm very happy about it.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
Yeah, very happy.
That's
Cardiac
cool.
Kemba, welcome to the garden.
All right.
Native New Yorker from the Bronx,
Yeah,
represent.
that's awesome.
BX, throw it up. I want to end this podcast by saying, question things. You know, look into stuff. Always ask questions, right? Never take anything at face value. But always, always, always pay respect to, you know, when there's a tragedy, if you're like diving deep into some tragic event that happened, while you can look into it, just always make sure you pay respect to the people that did actually die. And also, you know, I just feel like don't dwell on it too much. Whether it was a fucking inside job or not, there's pretty much nothing we can do about it. So don't let it consume you. Don't like lay awake in your bed at night just like staring at the ceiling thinking about how horrible the world is. Love your family, spend time with your friends, do shit that makes your heart happy, travel, go to the national parks, get a dog, you know, do cool shit that just makes you happy, and like get into a passion. Make the world, if you're like worried about how fucking evil the world is, find something you want to do to make the world a better place and just go out and like devote your life to it. You know, like love your kids and your family and just fucking try and be the best human you can be, because the world is fucking crazy, and honestly the little guys like us can only do so much. So
and fight for your right to party.
Fight for your right to party. Question everything. Do your research. And yeah, man, just live, love life. I love my life. I fucking love America.
Live and let live, baby.
Very well said.
I have the American flag on my hat for a reason. I genuinely love this country, and I know we're not perfect. A lot of crazy shit has happened, but I'm very proud to live here. And I'm not saying that the shit we talked about in this video happened or this podcast happened, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, probably did.
Interesting. Well, you can feel that way. I completely agree with your right to feel that way. It's just important to look at everything and talk about things that are interesting or fishy or whatever you want to call it. With that being said, thank you for tuning in this evening to another episode of the Midnight Variety Hour. Question everything. Watch some New York Knicks basketball starring Kemba Walker. And spend time with your friends and family and just enjoy life. Be the best human you can be. Make the world the best place you can be, because we're all in it together. Stay safe out there in the cosmos.
Peace.